Good morning. It is 8:34 a.m. and I'd like to call the Board of Psychology meeting to order and ask that Ms. Moon please call the roll.
Okay. Tate?
Here.
Rogers?
Here.
Suga?
Here.
Cervantes?
Here.
Fu?
Here.
Harbsheets?
Here. Here.
Phillips?
Here.
Scate?
Here.
Quorum is established.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for joining us this morning. I am Leah Tate, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Board of Psychology two-day meeting in Sacramento, and I have a few items to share regarding housekeeping. You will notice that all board members have a computer in front of them. This is how we access our board materials, and we will be referencing the computer pretty much all the time over the next 2 days. I will be monitoring time closely this morning to make sure that we start the petition hearing promptly at 9:30 a.m. We'll stop around 9:15 to allow the judge to set up. 15 minutes of break for us and 15 minutes for the judge to set up for the hearing. Also today, new for our group, we have mics that are on all the time. So this mic is here, and there's one over there in front of you, Dr. Harbsheets. Is it green? Yes, it's green. So those will be on the whole time. Okay. Making sure everyone knows that. And also, continuing professional development credit is available for attending this meeting. I'm going to give Ms. Whitney a few moments to share how to properly document attendance.
Yep.
Mr. Pope, I'm sorry. New position, I'm sorry.
Good morning. Attending today's board meeting provides you with CPD credit under Category 1, attendance at a California Board of Psychology meeting. For your CPD records, please notate today's date as November 7th, 2024, and note that we are here for the board meeting. At the end of this meeting today, I will announce how many credits will be how many hours will be credited for attending today's meeting. If you called into the meeting, please email the board at bopce@dca.ca.gov. Again, that is bopce, which is short for Board of Psychology Continuing Education, at dca.ca.gov with your name, license number, and the phone number used to call in. If you signed in using the computer or mobile device, your attendance is automatically documented and no further information is necessary. For any attendees in the audience here today, the attendance sheet provided here will be the record of your attendance. Please sign in and out as needed for today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Polk. And with those housekeeping items out of the way, we are handing it over to Dr. Rogers for a mindfulness exercise.
Thank you, Dr. Tate, and good morning, everyone. It's so good to be with all of you today, and I am excited to start the day off with a brief mindfulness exercise. I'd had a whole presentation planned around what I wanted to talk about, and I'm trying to decide if I want to keep with that or if I want to scrap it. I think we have been through a tumultuous time, and I am excited about the opportunity to just get still. I often talk about mindfulness as the practice of returning home to the self, home to the heart, home to the present moment, and home to the breath. And after the wild ride we have all been on as a nation, I think it's important for us to just take a collective pause so that we can find our footing again and find the ground beneath us. So with that, I will offer a brief mindfulness exercise. So if you are so inclined and would like to participate, I invite you to find a position that is comfortable and supportive for you. I will watch the time, so there's nothing for anyone to do in this moment other than just rest and take a few moments. So finding whatever position that is that's comfortable and supportive for your practice, feeling the feet on the ground, and bringing your full self into this present moment. Closing the eyes if that feels comfortable and supportive for you. And if that doesn't feel comfortable, supportive, or accessible to you, you can just gently lower your gaze. And for the next few moments, centering your attention on the breath that moves in and out of the body. And allowing yourself to arrive in this moment. We all took different pathways to get to this very moment, but we are here collectively, whether we are here together in person or people joining in via WebEx. So we're all gathered together in this present moment. And what a gift it is to be connected in the here and now. And as you arrive to this present moment, maybe just checking in with the body, noticing how the body is feeling in this moment. Is there tension? Is there sensation somewhere? You notice areas where there's some spaciousness or softness. Really seeing if you're able to allow the body to settle and relax. Feeling yourself held by the chair you're on, the earth beneath you. And simply connecting with the breath that moves in and out of the body. And the breath is always our portal and our anchor to the present moment. No matter the thoughts we might be having or the emotions that are present, or even the physical sensations, always be guided right back to the present moment via the breath. And as we bring ourselves to the present moment, maybe we set an intention for today. Our main goal is consumer protection, of course. But what is it that will guide you through our various discussions today? And how do you want to show up? Can you allow that intention to be your anchor? So staying connected to our anchor. Resting in this present moment. noticing the breath as it moves through the body. And really touching into the sense of being settled, creating a bit of space for ourselves. And being held in this moment of stillness. And as we begin to bring this practice to a close, seeing if you can hold on to this sense of feeling settled and being able to carry it with you throughout the day. And in a moment, I'll invite you to open your eyes. But before we do that, perhaps you offer yourself just a bit of gratitude for this gift of resting in kind awareness. And as you're feeling ready, you can gently open your eyes and bring yourself back into the room. Thank you, everyone, for your practice.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. As always, we're grateful for you leading us into our meeting. I'd like to open the President's Welcome agenda item number 2 up for board comment. I'd like to open up the President's Welcome for public comment. If anyone in the room has a public comment, please come forward and have a seat in front of the microphone area. Mr. Moderator, can you open up public comment for the President's Welcome?
Absolutely. We are opening up for public comment via WebEx on the mindfulness exercise and our opening. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise a hand. And for our mobile device users, you have 3 different pages and only one of them has a hand button. So you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... at the bottom, and cycle through those 3 different pages in order to find your hand. People will be given 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. Our first comment comes from Robert Teal. Hold on, Robert. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone. All right,
Can you
Robert.
guys hear me?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Perfect. Thank you for recognizing me. My name is Robert Teal, and I'm a licensed psychologist from San Diego, and my concern regards the Enforcement Division. Is this the appropriate time?
Actually, this is just public comment for the President's Welcome.
Oh, sorry, I will let go then.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Each agenda item will have a public comment option.
Got it. I didn't realize this was on.
And the enforcement report is agenda item number 11, which would be probably the most appropriate time to ask.
And that was our only request for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I appreciate that. We are moving on to agenda item number 3, which is public comment for items not on the agenda. The board may not discuss or take action on any matter raised during this public comment section, except to decide whether to place the matter on the agenda of a future meeting. Before I invite speakers to come forward for public comment, I would ask individuals making comments to not discuss the specifics, including names, of the pending complaints, pending licensing applications, or pending disciplinary actions that may come before the board for a decision. Such discussions are considered ex parte communications as they could provide information to the members that is outside of the record. This is in violation of the Administrative Procedure Act. While there may be a desire to engage in further discussion with comments presented during this time, we may not discuss or take action. Although this may give the impression we are not being responsive, these procedures are critical to ensure the compliance with the Open Meetings Act and to avoid compromising the speaker's goals or the board's mission. In addition, if there is a speaker before you who expresses thoughts that are very similar to yours, please feel free to verbally agree with previous speakers. Each speaker will have 2 minutes. I'm going to open up public comment in the room first. Anyone who has a public comment for items not on the agenda, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment for not on the agenda?
We are
Items
open for
not on
public
the
comment via WebEx for items not on the agenda. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for items not on the agenda. Seeing no request for items not on the agenda, do you wish to continue?
Yes, please. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 4. This is discussion and possible approval of the board meeting minutes from the August 9th, 2024 meeting. I'd like to open up this agenda item to the board. Discussion, a possible motion. Yes.
I move that we adopt and approve the draft minutes of the board meeting of August 9, 2024.
I second.
Thank you. Any other board comment regarding this item? I'd like to open up public comment in the room for agenda item number 4, discussing and possible approval of the board minutes from August 9th, 2024. If you do have a comment, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up WebEx for public comment on agenda item number 4?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 4. If you'd like to make a comment via WebEx, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button. That's the ... in order to find your hand. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank
Or
you.
the motion?
Yes, thank you. Any other board comment before call for the vote? Thank you. Ms. Voon, can you please call? Tate? Abstain?
Rogers?
Aye.
Suga?
Aye.
Cervantes?
Aye.
Fu?
Aye.
Arbsheets?
Aye.
Ekstrom?
Aye.
Phillips?
Aye.
Scate?
Thank you. Motion passes. Agenda item number 5 is the discussion and possible approval of the board meeting minutes from August 15th and August 16th, 2024. I'm bringing this to the board for discussion, comments, or a possible motion.
Move to adopt the board meeting minutes from September 13th, 2024.
Second the motion.
Nope, no,
August 15th and 16th?
Yes.
For agenda item number 5.
Second.
Thank you. Any other board comment? I'd like to open this item up for public comment, agenda item number 5. If you do have a public comment in the room, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment on WebEx for agenda item number 5?
We are taking comment for agenda item 5 via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you. Any other board comment on this item? Ms. Foon, can you please call the roll?
Tate,
Aye.
Rogers, Kasuga,
Aye.
Cervantes, Fu,
Aye.
Harpsheets,
Aye.
Nystrom,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Gate. Motion passes.
Thank you so much. Agenda item number 6 is the discussion and possible approval of the board meeting minutes from September 13th, 2024. Board discussion, comments, or third possible motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the meeting minutes for September 13th, 2024.
I'll second.
Perfect. Any other board comment regarding this agenda item? Any public comment for agenda item number 6 in the room? If you do have a comment, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment for agenda item number 6 on WebEx?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 6. If you'd like to make a comment via WebEx, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the motion?
Yes, thank you. Any other board comment? Ms. Boone, can you please call the roll?
Tate,
Aye.
Rogers, Kasuga, Cervantes, Fu,
Aye.
Harpsheets,
Abstain.
Nystrom,
Aye.
Phillips,
Aye.
Gate.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 7 is the President's report. All of the upcoming 2025 board meetings and committee meetings are listed in the board packet. Our next full board meeting will be February 27th and 28th, and that will be in Sacramento. Any board comment on the President's report, meeting calendar? Thank you. Any public comment in the room regarding the President's report, agenda item number 7? Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment for agenda item number 7 on WebEx? Mr. Moderator?
It might help if I unmuted myself. We are open for public comment on agenda item 7. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for the President's report. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, thank you. Agenda item number, sorry, Mr. Fu.
Quick question on the February 27th and 28th board meeting here in Sacramento. I think in the past, we've also scheduled legislative visits prior to that. And so just for planning purposes, Mr. Burke, is that the intention for legislative visits to occur on the 26th, that Wednesday? And will those be visits virtual or in person?
We can certainly schedule those again. We've done it the last few years. We can try. We often try for in person, but that's not always granted. And so we'll see. I'll know more as we start to schedule them. Be late December, early January.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Fu. That's a good question. Agenda item number 8 is the interim executive officer's report. Mr. Burke.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. My only real update is a personnel update for the board. Happy to say we are now fully staffed in the enforcement division unit and the licensing unit. So that's been really good. We had some of those vacancies for quite a while, so it's great there's new staff on board now and getting trained. We still have 2 vacancies in the central services unit, the legislative and regulatory analyst and the verification and renewals coordinator position. That one is also going through a reclass, so we're trying to turn the OT position into an SSA position, so it can, that they can perform slightly more analytical functions. Other than that, that's my only update.
Thank you. Any board comment for Mr. Burke?
Mr. Burke, could you explain what an OT position is as opposed to an SSA position?
Oh, I'm sorry. An office technician is what an OT is, and that is a clerical staff. It's an entry-level clerical staff position. They usually don't perform any analytical functions, whereas an SSA, a staff services analyst, is it's the lowest level of analyst, and they're able to run more analytical functions. So they're more, it's a slightly more versatile position in terms of, you know, they can work on contracts, things like that.
Thank you.
Good question, Dr. Phillips. Any other questions for Mr. Burke? I'd like to open it up for public comment on agenda item number 8. If you have a question for Mr. Burke, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up public comment for agenda item number 8?
We are taking public comment for agenda item 8, the personnel update. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue?
Yes, and thank you. Agenda item number 9 is the DCA update, and Ms. Durantes is going to do that presentation for us. Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see you all, and I can't believe it's already November. Every time I have these meetings, I can't believe it's just yet like another quarter. But thank you for having me. I have a couple updates for you, and as always, I'm happy to answer any questions or repeat any. So I will start off with our diversity, equity, and inclusion update, which DCA's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Steering Committee met last month, and we are excited to announce its newly elected leadership. So Reggie Varghese, Medical Board of California's Executive Director, will serve as the chair, and Marlon McManus of the Board of Behavioral Sciences. He's Assistant Executive Officer. He will be serving as the vice chair. And so with Reggie and Marlon's years of experience, we look forward to them accomplishing a lot of initiatives under their leadership. Moving on to unconscious bias training. I am also excited to share that DCA is updating its current Unveiling Unconscious Bias training to specifically focus on board members. And so your critical role and how unconscious bias can affect your decision-making authority. The training will be self-paced and available in DCA's online learning management system, and we anticipate launching this new training early in 2025. And board members will be required to take this annually. As a reminder, DCA offers over 20 online DEI training courses on LMS, and while these courses are not mandatory, we do strongly encourage that you take any of them. And as always, if you do have any issues with LMS, I am happy to assist with resetting that or reminding you what your username is or what your password is. So please feel free to reach out if you do have any issues. Moving on to our military licensing resources webinar. To support and maximize outreach to our military community, DCA is hosting a second live webinar on November 21st to share information about military licensing resources. During the webinar, attendees will learn about licensing resources available to members of the military and their spouses or domestic partners. The webinar will also feature a demonstration of DCA's federal professional license portability and state registration process, which was launched last fall, as well as a Q&A session. And so webinar details and information will be available on DCA's website, which is dca.ca.gov/military. Sharing some information on new business and travel expense reimbursement. And so the State Department of Human Resources, also known as CalHR, recently released an updated travel policy to align with the federal policies outlined by the U.S. General Services Administration. Effective October 1st, DCA will use the federal standard meals and incidental expense rate for in-state and out-of-state travel. DCA will also use the federal standard and non-standard reimbursement lodging rates. Information on these changes was shared with board leaders at the end of September. So your president and vice president should have received that, but if you didn't, I'm happy to forward that email or resend it again. And information on these changes can also always be found by inquiring with BBR. And board members are encouraged to become familiar with these new travel expense reimbursements as they can affect you. So please do contact us if you do have any questions in regard to that. And so we are officially in the season of giving, and DCA is honored to join in the annual charitable campaigns that are launching this month. DCA's annual turkey drive and the state's Our Promise campaign. The turkey drive will be held on November 13th from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and board members and employees will have an opportunity to give back to the community. DCA will hold its third annual turkey drive with donations benefiting Joey's Food Locker, a local food bank located near DCA's headquarters in Sacramento. Donations of frozen turkeys and non-perishable food items will be accepted at DCA headquarters, bar headquarters, and Evergreen building locations in the Sacramento area. And so that's here in Natomas, this location, Rancho Cordova, and the Arden area. And if you do want any additional information on that or might not be able to make it on November 13th and have any non-perishable items that you'd like to share, you can either speak to your executive officer or myself, and we'd be happy to collect them and be able to donate them on your behalf as well. There is also different collection boxes at these different locations as well that those items can be dropped off at. And lastly, Our Promise campaign will be launching this month as well, and this is the State Employees Giving at Work campaign. And so every year through the Our Promise California State Employers charitable campaign, state employees, including board members, have the opportunity to support the nonprofit of their choice or nonprofits that they are passionate about through payroll giving or one-time donations. These contributions have a positive impact on our communities and is another way that DCA is able to show that it cares for California. And so this year's campaign is led by Monica Vargas, who is our Deputy Director of Communications and Karen Navarro, who is the Assistant Deputy Director of Communications. DCA's official campaign launch is on November 18th, and it'll run through December 31st. So as always, I am happy to take any questions. Those are all of the updates I have for you today.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And I'm so glad you're doing the unconscious bias training. That's always fascinating. Any board comments for Mr. Rantes? Great. I'd like to open up public comment in the room for agenda item number 9. If you have a comment or question, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up agenda item number 9 for public comment on WebEx?
Absolutely. We are now taking public comment on agenda item 9 via WebEx. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of your screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise a hand. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... and cycle through 3 different pages in order to find your hand. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes. And thank you for your help. Thank you, Mr. Rantes, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Agenda item number 10 is the budget report. Ms. Whitney.
Good morning. So the budget report materials start on page 55 of your packet. The current projections below are based on fiscal month 3 totals for the 24-25 fiscal year. As for revenue, the board is projecting.
Sorry, the board can't hear you.
Want me to start over? Or okay. So this is item number 10, the budget report, and can be found on page 55 in your materials. The current projections below are based on the fiscal month 3 totals for the 24-25 fiscal year. As for revenue, the board is projected to collect $9.014 million in fiscal year 24-25. Board staff will continue to monitor revenue with the budget office monthly. For 24-25 expenditures, the board is projected to spend $7.873 million of its budgeted appropriation of $8.088 million, leaving a balance of approximately $215,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Any board comment for Ms. Whitney? Oh, go ahead, Dr. Cervantes.
A question. I have a couple of them. How do we derive that projected revenue? This is that projection climbs over 2 million. Over 9 million, and it is almost $1 million more than our budget appropriation. I don't remember a report with that large of a gap. Can you tell us about how that projection is derived?
These numbers are provided from our fiscal office. I don't know if John, if you're able to speak more.
Yes, it's based on the number of licensees we have, the number of renewals we've had historically, and the anticipated number of applications, renewals, linked with our licensing fees. I think the reason the numbers climbed a little bit is because obviously this will be the first full fiscal year with the fee increase that we did. So that's it. At the February board meeting, budgets will be here and they can give a more comprehensive overview of how their numbers, what the working goes into. But I believe that's what that number is based on.
Okay. But the gap is, I noticed that in the review. You know, and then I have just a general management question. Because it's not obvious to me from this review. We have 2 new categories of licensure. And I wondered what the impact on our operations is of that, and in terms of budget costs, if we're experiencing an impact, because it does require staffing, new specialization. This is just a general question of how we're doing in the implementation of those two principles.
Are you referring to the psychological testing technician and the research psychoanalyst? So those, we don't have the numbers for the research psychoanalyst yet, but those are fairly minimal. It's a minimal number of the population we would be registering and doing renewals for. And the psychological testing technician, that's also a fairly minimal number. I believe licensing will be talking about that number in their report. So the impact hasn't been, so far it's been absorbable with the staff that we have.
For a few months, maybe like 18 months into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comment for Ms. Whitney? I'd like to open up public comment for the budget report. Anyone in the room, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up WebEx for public comment on agenda item number 10?
We are open for public comment on the budget report. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for the budget report. Seeing no request, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, thank you for your assistance. At this time, we're going to take about a 15-minute break and allow the administrative law judge to set up and prepare for the petition hearing. So we'll see everyone back at 9:30. Thank you. Perfect, thank you so much. So it is 9:39 and we're about to jump into a petition. Ms. Boone, can you please call the roll? Kate? Here. Here. Uga? Here.
Cervantes?
Here.
Boo?
Here.
Harpsheet?
Here.
Here. Phillips?
Here.
Here.
Formicelli?
Thank you so much. At this time, I'm going to hand over the helm to Judge Van Rowan.
Thank you very much, Dr. California. We're here first to review the petition for early termination of probation filed by Roberto A. Francis, R-O-B-E-R-T-O-A, and Francis, F-R-A-N-C-I-S. The OAH case number is 2024-100342, and the Board of Psychology case number is 600-2024-000-943. My name is Wim Van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings for the state of California, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter today. Today's date is November 7th, 2024. It's approximately 9:41 a.m. We are conducting this matter in person and via WebEx. Just earlier on, we had a roll call taken of the board members, and I will let the record reflect that we have a quorum of the board present to hear this matter. May I please have appearances for starting with the Attorney General?
Yes. The Attorney General Jay Volansky on behalf of the state of California.
You speak up, I'm getting indicators, but we can't hear you.
Deputy Attorney General Jay Volansky on behalf of the state of California.
Thank you. That's much better, I think. Thank you so much. Yeah. And Dr. Francis, if you could just state your name for the...
Roberto Aaron Francis. I'm representing myself, if it's okay, I just go by Robert, but you can call me Roberto if you'd like. It's my legal name.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Good morning to you, Dr. Francis. So just in terms of the procedure today that will follow, we do have time limitations, as I explained to the parties off the record, but I'm not going to strictly follow them because we don't have an attorney to represent you, Dr. Francis. So what I'm instead going to have the Deputy Attorney General do is introduce the petition packet and exhibits as well as provide the board with a procedural history and background of this case. And then after that, you will have an opportunity to make a presentation under oath, Dr. Francis, to explain why you believe your petition should be granted. And then obviously you will also be subject to questioning by the Deputy Attorney General and by the board members if they have any question for you. And as I've indicated, I anticipate allocating approximately 30 minutes for you to speak at first, the Deputy Attorney General about 30 minutes, and then some time for board members to ask questions, and that will keep us within that about hour and 20-minute time frame that's suggested. Really, the board today is concerned with rehabilitation that you may have engaged in. We may have some summary of the previous events just to put things in context for us, but the real emphasis is what has happened since then through today in terms of your rehabilitation. I'll just also remind you that the board has had the benefit of reading your petition packet, so it's not necessary to repeat everything that's in there, but you're certainly welcome to emphasize or highlight certain things you think are particularly important that you want to share with the board members. After the hearing, the board will then go into a closed session to deliberate, so there won't be an oral decision today, but you will receive a decision in the mail at some point in the future. Any questions about any of the procedure or the hearing before we get started?
No.
Thank you very much, Dr. Francis. At this time, then, I will invite the Deputy Attorney General to present the petition packet and exhibits, as well as provide a procedural history of the case. Thank you.
Your Honor, I'd like to start with the exhibit.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
So starting with Exhibit 1, we have the Certificate of Censure. Exhibit 2 is the Notice of Hearing. Exhibit 3 is the corrected Notice of Hearing. Afterwards, in Exhibit 4, we have a certified copy of disciplinary decision. Exhibit 5 is the petition for early termination. Exhibit 6 is the probation compliance report. Exhibit 7 is the probation file, and Exhibit 8 is additional documents for the petition.
Thank you very much. And you're offering all of this into evidence, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Any objection to Exhibits 1 through 8 being admitted?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Exhibits 1 through 8 are admitted. There's one other matter to address. I know there was a request for a protective order for some of the documents, and I just quickly want to make sure we deal with that as well. Ms. Wolanski, just to confirm, you're specifically asking for the following to be sealed. That would be Exhibit 5, AGO pages 51 through 54, AGO pages 66 through 72. In Exhibit 7, then AGO 79 through 685, and Exhibit 8, AGO 688 through 689, and 690 through 691. And the basis for that is because it contains either medical information or records or personal financial information, as well as personal information regarding relatives and recommending parties. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Any objection to the protective order, Dr. Francis?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Then I do find that it's appropriate to protect this information due to the privacy and confidentiality rights enumerated in the motion. It's granted, and that'll accompany the record that the board will consider and will be appropriately protected. So that's granted. Thank you very much, Ms. Wolanski. You can continue.
I would like to comment, since this is a hybrid hearing, that redacted exhibits were uploaded into CaseTime, but that this protective order would also override that and remove some of those pages from the official public disclosure file.
That is correct. It's granted. It's part of the protective order. Thank you.
Thank you. Your Honor, before the board today is Dr. Roberto Francis's second petition for early termination. To provide background, Prior to being issued a probationary license, petitioner received 5 misdemeanor convictions in less than 4 years. 4 of those convictions either involved or were related to a driving under the influence, and the remaining conviction involved violence. Specifically, on June 6, 2006, petitioner was arrested for driving under the influence with THC of 0.15%. And as a result, on May 7, 2007, petitioner pled no contest to a DUI, which is a misdemeanor. On June 11, 2007, petitioner pled no contest and was convicted for a misdemeanor for fighting in public. And on November 1st, 2008, petitioner was arrested again for driving under the influence, but this time with a DAC of 0.11%. And as a result, on December 15th, 2008, he was convicted for his second DUI. And right after sentencing, petitioner was arrested in the court parking lot for driving with a suspended license. And as a result, on February 25th, 2009, he was convicted for driving with a suspended license due to a DUI. And on January 29th, 2011, petitioner was arrested again for driving with a suspended license, and as a result, he was convicted on March 25th, 2011 for a misdemeanor. In 2014, petitioner submitted his first psychological assistance application to the board, and in his application, the board did deny that application, and he appealed that decision. And as a result, the board filed the first statement of issues against petitioner. And they filed this statement of issues due to his misdemeanor conviction and because of dishonesty on the application. He had failed to disclose in his application that he had a conviction for fighting in public. And after a hearing, the board did upheld that denial. In 2016, petitioner submitted his second application for a psychological assistant license. And this time, the petitioner did not contest the board's denial of this application. In this application, petitioner checked no when asked in the application whether he had any convictions. And when the board requested further explanation for that no answer, he failed to disclose all of his convictions, in particular, the 2 misdemeanor convictions for driving with a suspended license. In 2017, petitioner submitted an application to become a psychologist, and the board denied the application, and petitioner appealed that decision, and as a result, we have a second statement of issues. And that statement of issues was filed based on the criminal convictions and the dishonesty on the application, and the 2 prior applications. Petitioner signed a settlement agreement, which placed him on 7 years probation, and the agreement was adopted by the board on May 2nd, 2019, and that went into effect on June 1st, 2019. His probation is projected to end on June 1st, 2026. So as a result, petitioner has completed approximately 5.5 years of a 7-year probation, which is approximately 80%. Pursuant to the terms of his agreement, petitioner agreed to undergo a psychological evaluation, abstain from drugs and alcohol, submit to random drug and alcohol testing, notify his employer of his probation status, complete coursework, complete an ethics course, pay probation costs, obey all laws, submit quarterly reports, among other terms and conditions. Petitioner then submitted his first petition for early termination of probation, and after a hearing on November 17, 2022, on March 11, 2023, the board denied that petition. Your Honor, in a petition for early termination, the burden is on petitioner to prove by clear and convincing evidence that he has demonstrated sufficient rehabilitation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wolanski. All right, Dr. Francis, now is your opportunity to testify in support of your petition and provide any more information you'd like. I'm assuming you'd like to take the opportunity to address the board and testify. All right, I'm going to have you raise your right hand and I'll swear. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you so much. You can put your head down. Please state and spell your full name for the record.
Roberto Aaron Francis, RobertoAaronFrancis.
Thank you, Dr. Francis. And as I mentioned earlier on, you can assume that the board members have reviewed and will likely again review all of your documents before any decision is made, but you can certainly highlight and emphasize any portions you wish appropriate. If you don't have an attorney to ask you questions, you can just testify freely and let us know whatever you'd like, you think is relevant in support of your petition. Once you're done, Ms. Wolanski may have some questions for you, and the board members may have questions for you. So with that said, you have the floor, sir. Thank you.
First, I would like to thank you all for taking the time out of your morning. I know you would be here nonetheless, but I'm appreciative of it. As you can see, I don't have an attorney representing me, and that I want to just make sure that I emphasize that it's not because I don't believe it doesn't warrant an attorney. It's due to the fact that I came here 2 years ago, almost to the week, and spent a lot of money on an attorney, and I'm not able to do that this time. But I just want to make sure it's clear that I understand that this is an incredibly important hearing, and I wish I could have an attorney here. Excuse me. If you had the opportunity to go over my narrative statement, I recognize some of you from 2 years ago, and if you, for whatever reason, remember reviewing this case and reading these narrative statements, you'll see that it's similar to what it was 2 years ago. Almost identical, really, other than times being extended because there's been more time. Drew's Place, my company, hasn't just started. It's been open for 2 years, and so the details, the time details and things like that have changed. But the message that I portrayed in that narrative statement 2 years ago is even more true today. So I wanted to also emphasize that it wasn't an act of laziness, not caring, thinking you wouldn't catch it, or anything like that. It was more of, I had nothing really to elaborate on or change about the work that I've done, the person that I've become, the accountability that I have about the crimes I committed in the past, the omissions, the deception that I attempted to get past you when I applied for to become a psych assistant. All those things still remain very true to me. I have a relatively good life today with little complaints, and I know that what I've done in the past is pretty egregious offenses prior to licensure, and even when attempting to be under the board's umbrella, attempting to deceive or omit offenses is a very serious mistake that I made. So please, if you can, try not to read too much into the letter being similar as if it was a lack of effort. It is purely based on the fact that my life remains almost the exact same as it did in terms of how I feel about what I've done and how I feel about who I've become and who I continue to become. I wanted to just read, it's kind of a narrative statement, an additional narrative statement, but it is about much more about now than it is about the past. And I'll do my best to slow down so that you can hear it and not speak too quickly. Today, I wanted to spend more time focusing on my life now rather than in the past. And while I acknowledge and take responsibility for the past crimes, omissions, probation violations, as well as understand and appreciate the seriousness of what I have done and respect the board's decision to put my license on probation, I want to focus on how my life has been for the last 5 years. I am a happy man. I can say that without a doubt, and I can say that as honestly as possible. I have a wonderful wife who's here supporting me. Don't cry. I have 2 great kids, 6 years old, 3 years old. I really do. I'm still not quite sure how I got so lucky with that, based on what you know about me. I get to help raise them. I get to help them become wonderful human beings as they grow older, and I just don't take that for granted. I could honestly say that I have no complaints. I can't think of things to complain about in my life. I have a good family, extended family. I've reconnected with my mother, who I did not have a relationship with for 10 years. She has met my children. She has babysat my children, something that, if you asked me 5 years ago, would never be on the table. So I'd like to give you a little bit of a glimpse of what my life looks like on a regular basis. And it might be a little mundane, and it might be kind of just, okay, but my life is very simple. For the past 5+ years, even more, because my son was born before I got on probation, each day I wake up, my 6-year-old runs into the bedroom, wakes us up early. We get up, we have a cup of coffee, I kiss him, I kiss my wife. My 3-year-old runs out when his little light comes on from his bedroom and he's allowed to come out of his room. I kiss him. I get ready for work. I take my kids to school every day, Monday through Friday, take them to school. I work. I get to do something that I love and that I really care about. I come home. I kiss my wife, my kids, and I work out. 4 to 5 days a week. I exercise. We have a home gym. That's my week. Okay, that's my every day. After we put the kid, after that I eat dinner. We play, put the kids down, watch a little TV, talk about our day. Maybe I work a little bit, and then I go to bed, and I get to do that every single day, Monday through Friday. The weekends, the only thing that changes is I'm not working, and I'm working around the house. And I'm coaching my son in t-ball, coaching him in basketball. I'm going to Little League. I'm on the board of directors. I'm going to Little League meetings once a month. I volunteer with the Asphalt Cowboys, which is a community-based philanthropy that just basically gives back pancake breakfasts, lunches, things like that, cook at schools to raise funds and things like that. That is 90% of my life. On top of that, I get to go on vacation every once in a while. I get to spend time with my friends and family. I think the most important thing for me is, despite all of this stuff I get to do, I can be present for it. This is something that wasn't possible when I was drinking. It didn't matter, really, when I was drinking or partying. But now it's the most important thing for me. And as I said 2 years ago in my narrative statement, I am unwilling to do anything that could potentially put all of that at risk. Before, when I abused alcohol, I had in my mind nothing to lose. My life did not have love in it. It had hate in it. I was filled with anger. As you've read in the narrative statements or the support letters from my wife, I come from nothing. Excuse me. I come from a very damaged home, and where abuse and alcohol and substances was just normal. Like, you saw it every day. Dad's drinking with a Budweiser in his lap, driving me to baseball practice, as you know. I didn't know any different. And I'm not using it as an excuse, but I didn't know how to act. I didn't know how to be. I'm sorry. I get to be something so much better for my sons and for my wife. I get to be sober. I get to be healthy. I get to care about my health. I did not expect this, so I apologize. And I'm incredibly grateful for what I have. And I'm going to probably say it 10 times, so I'm sorry, but like, I'm not willing to do anything to screw that up. And the board placing my license on probation, I said this last time, I was resentful. I didn't think it needed to be there. I thought I was perfectly fine, and maybe I would have been. I don't know. Can't say, because it didn't happen. But what I can say is being able to create this life with my wife, knowing that the board is checking in on me, whether it's, you know, testing for substances or my quarterly reports and those things, has helped me realize what I have. And it's helped me recognize even more than before how much I do not want to lose that. I know that if I drink again and get a DUI or some other poor mistake I make, I know that you guys can take this all away from me. I mean, yeah, I still have my wife and my kids, but I don't have my career, which is a huge part of my identity. But that it can be taken. And that's not even while I'm on probation. That's once I'm off probation, and if it goes the full 7 years, all it takes is another mistake, and I'll be getting a phone call from somebody. And so I know that all of that is at risk every single day if I choose to drink. And so every day I choose not to drink. And every day moving forward, I will do everything I can to make the choice not to drink. Excuse me. I'm fortunate to have my wife, my dad, my brother, my business partner who wrote me a letter of support, my friends. Some of them drink, some of them don't, who fully support my sobriety. It's not like, I don't know what to call it, like immaturity around, oh, you wish you could drink, or how much do you miss it, and razzing me. It's, man, most of them actually say, man, I wish I wasn't drinking. They kind of envy me, actually. But they fully support it. I have such a network of people in my life. Thank you. I have such a network of people in my life who fully support me. And there was a time in my life when I didn't believe it, or maybe didn't even feel like I deserved it. It wasn't real. But I fully believe that I deserve the love I have in my life from my wife, from my friends, from my community, from my business partner. She's like a sister to me. And I've totally went off topic here, so I apologize. But I am incredibly grateful for what I have. And again, I'm just going to reiterate that there is nothing I would do to risk losing my family, my career, the respect of my peers. So forgive me for going off topic a little bit. I'll come back to what I had written down. What I will say is I'm not trying to portray that I have a perfect life, because I don't. I still have conflict with my mom, who we're working on our relationship and building trust in that. I still have conflict with my business partner. I have conflict with my wife, because I think that is normal and healthy. Our kids sometimes drive us completely crazy. 2 6 and 3-year-old boys, a lot. I have conflict with my family because I think it's healthy. I do. We were able to talk it out, though, and work through it. It's not screaming and yelling and fighting and so on and so forth. My brother, who was a contributor to my trauma as a child, is taking me out to dinner for my birthday tonight because we have a good relationship. We have worked on it. We've worked through it. He is one of my best friends. But I just wanted to make sure that I portrayed you that my life is nowhere close to perfect, but that I'm just incredibly thankful for the life that I do have. And the reality of it is no matter what happens today and what decision all of you decide to make, whether you grant my petition and I get off early, or you choose to deny it because you feel like I haven't done enough yet, after I leave here today, I'm going to go back to doing the exact same things I've been doing for the past 5+ years. Getting up, going to work, kissing my kids, exercising, eating with my family, coaching, volunteering with the community, all these things I listed, that will not change. No matter what happens today. Last time I met with you, I had portrayed this, I feel victim-y type of stance. Oh, the board is ruining my life. It costs so much money. I can't get on insurance panels. I can't remember what else I shared with you, how it was hard. But the reality of it is I still can't get on insurance panels. I still can't work with veterans, which is where my heart lives. But Drew's Place is thriving. My company, mine and Stacy's company, is doing fantastic. We have a wait list. We have no issue with getting clients through the door. We have been successful. We have really gained a strong reputation in Shasta County as a company who really cares about helping their clients. I'm not saying there are other ones don't, but we have gained a reputation. We are not trying to get people through the door and get out. We are trying to help them heal. Excuse me, sorry. The reality of it is wherever the board lands with seeing how much if I've done enough to prove rehabilitation and that I'm ready to be on my own without any supervision. I will see better. I will work with veterans one day. If it's 6 months from now, if the decision comes in March and I'm off, or if it's basically a year and a half from now in June of 2026 when I complete my full term of probation, the first thing I plan on doing is trying to get credentialed with the VA, with TRICARE, or TriWest, excuse me. Because again, that's where my heart lives. Is Drew's place is named after my best friend Drew, who passed away, who was a veteran. That's why I created it. So that will happen. And in the meantime, I will wait patiently for that because I know it is inevitable for me. It just may not be as soon as I want it to be. But for now, I will be grateful that I get to do what I love as often as I want to. And I get to come home to my wife and my children every single day. The entire purpose of my request for early termination is to let you all know that I believe in my heart that it's no longer needed. I may have misinterpreted the reasons that my request was denied last time, but my understanding was that I had not proven to all of you that I'd done enough. And I can't even say that today I've done much different or done more to prove my rehabilitation. I haven't gone to any more type of meetings or rehabs or anything else that would be quantifiable evidence. But I also know that in the first 3 years of my probation, I violated 7 times. 2 of those, I can hang my head high and say I'm okay with that because that was early on in the COVID pandemic, and I chose not to test, knowing the ramifications. The others were simply being irresponsible in my own opinion, forgetting, not having alarm set to remind me to check in every morning just in case I forget, checking in, having to test, forgetting to go test. Clearly not complying with my terms of probation. But I can say proudly that since April of 2022, which is a little over 2.5 years, I have not had any violations. I have never in the entirety of my probation provided a specimen positive for alcohol or drugs. I have never used substances while on probation, and actually for 2019, 2 years before that, the day of my wedding was the last day I drank a glass of champagne I'd ever consumed alcohol. I hope that you all hear me today when I tell you that I am ready. I believe it in my heart. I hope that I have done enough to show you that I'm ready and rehabilitated, although haven't really done any extra observable, quantifiable work. I am not the same person I was a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago when I was placed on probation. I feel a healed man who loves his life and doesn't want to lose the opportunity to have this forever. So thank you all so much for listening to me. I know I don't need to, but I will apologize for crying a little bit because that was not part of the plan. And so thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dr. Francis. Ms. Walensky, do you have questions for the petitioner?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Dr. Francis, I'm going to just briefly ask you about those 5 misdemeanor convictions, just to provide context to the board members and establish a clear record. From 2007 to 2011, you were convicted of 5 misdemeanor convictions.
Correct.
And specifically on May 7th, 2007, you had a misdemeanor DUI after being arrested for a VAC of 0.13%.
Correct.
And June 11th, 2007, you were convicted for a misdemeanor for fighting in public.
Yes.
And December 15th, 2008, you were convicted for another DUI after an arrest for driving with a VAC of 0.11%.
Yes.
And February 25th, 2009, you pled no contest and were convicted for driving with a suspended license.
Yes.
And on March 25th, 2011, you pled guilty and were convicted for another misdemeanor for driving with a suspended license?
Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Francis, I'm now going to ask you about your prior applications to the board. For your first psychological assistant application, which you submitted in 2014, you did not disclose your conviction for fighting in public.
Correct.
And in your second psychological assistant application, you checked no when the application asked you whether you had been convicted of any crime.
Correct.
And when the board asked you to explain further why you had checked no, you failed to submit a conviction disciplinary action form, specifically for your 2 misdemeanor convictions for driving with a suspended license.
Correct.
Dr. Francis, I also now want to ask you about your compliance with probation since it began. Since beginning probation, you have failed to check in and provide a biological fluid sample on 8 separate occasions.
Yes, I thought it was 7, but maybe it's 8.
The first one being September 23rd, 2019.
Yes, I remember that one.
And the second one, March 6th of 2020.
Yes, sorry.
You just have to say yes. I
caught that when I did that. My apologies.
The third one being April 15th of 2020.
Yes.
The fourth one on April 16th of 2020.
I'm sorry, it was April 15th and 16th. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
I can
Of 2020.
ask the question again. The third one being April 15th of 2020.
Yes.
And the fourth one on April 16th of 2020.
Yes. May I ask a question? That works.
Is there a clarification?
Question, yeah, the clarification question.
What is your question?
Were those failure to check in or failure to provide specimen?
So on, I can rephrase.
Yeah, and I just, thank you, Ms. Walensky, and I just want to make sure, all of this is in the record, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. I'd rather us talk about what happened after. I don't think the check-ins are disputed, but go ahead if you want to clarify.
I can clarify for the petitioner who's asking. So for April 15, 2020, you failed to check in. And on April 16, 2020, you failed to check in and provide a sample on that date. Correct?
Yes, thank you.
April 27, 2020, you also failed. You also had a violation for failing to check in.
Yes, sorry.
And afterwards, on May 11th, 2020, you had another violation.
Yes.
And afterwards, September 7th of 2020, you had another violation, correct?
Yes.
And afterwards, April 6th of 2022, you also had another violation.
Correct, my final one.
One moment, Commissioner. And as a result, your probation monitor issued you 7 notices of probation violation.
Yes.
And afterward, you were also issued 2 citations for violating probation.
Correct.
And going back to your quarterly report, you submitted 1 quarterly report late, quarter 2 of 2019.
Yep. Yes, or yes, sorry.
Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you very much. Before I turn it to the board members, was there anything you'd like to add, Dr. Francis, in rebuttal?
Just really briefly, I take full accountability for all the violations, of course. But if it's not, I'm not sure if it is clear that my second violation that was coupled with my first. I did not turn in my first quarterly report when I was first placed on probation. and then I failed to provide a specimen in that September of 2019 day. That was because there was not a male to observe me at my facility, and therefore I did not provide a specimen. My probation monitor at that time, Curtis Gardner, I believe, was not able to confirm that there was not a male at the facility, and therefore violated me, again, which is fine. But I'd just like to note that it was later on determined, because this was a continuing issue, that my samples were no longer required to be observed if there was somebody not there to observe me. So I just want to note that they kind of allowed that to change, because this was an issue that just continued to come up. Reading isn't the smallest town in the world, but it is a smaller town, and so it's a little difficult to have a male observe me. And that is all I'd like to kind of clarify or say.
Thank you, Dr. Francis. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to board members to see if they have questions for you. And I'll start on this side, at the far end there. Dr. Cervantes, do you have any questions? Thank you very much. Dr. Fu, I believe, you have any questions?
I have a couple.
Please, go ahead.
Dr. Francis, can you share how the convictions that occurred prior to licensure and the deception on your psychological assistant application, what is the relevance to the practice of psychology from your perspective in terms of your probation? So phrased differently, this question, because I'm getting the look that that wasn't a very clear question, is what you see what is the connection between those convictions with relative to the use of substances relative to the safe practice of psychology? So
that is, no, that's okay. That's okay. Well, the relevance, there is significant relevance there. Obviously, I would say it's obvious for me, is when I'm engaging in reckless behavior. Just let's talk about the crimes. Reckless behavior, I am indicating a lack of care for myself. I am putting myself in danger. I'm putting other people in danger as I'm drinking and driving, getting in a fight. And so it's very clear, I think, in those circumstances, breaking the law in terms of, I wasn't putting anybody in danger when I was driving without a license, but I was breaking the law. So no regard for public safety and our governing body. Those behaviors, would indicate a person who, if he cannot care for himself, how can he really care for other people? How can he put other people, protect, should I say, other people emotionally if he can't even protect himself emotionally or physically? So I definitely see how probation focused on that in the means of making sure that due to the monitoring, I was not drinking, I was not engaging in reckless behavior so that the people were protected. The omissions and deception during the application process, I think, is just another indicator of somebody who is not willing to look at himself and not be honest with himself and not be able to understand the importance and significance of a job that we have, being able to provide services and help people. And so if somebody is behaving in a way that pretty much indicates that he hasn't changed based on his criminal behavior and now more like moral behavior, then I would require monitoring to make sure that I'm not deceiving my clients or putting them in harm's way somehow by manipulating them or trying to get things past them. So I think it's incredibly relevant in terms of my crimes and omissions and being placed on probation.
And then the second question was, you discussed some of the stressors and some of the relationships that you've repaired over the last 5 years on probation. And how do you respond to stressors as it relates to the maintenance of your sobriety?
Most people would say I'm an over communicator, so I try to get it out of me. As soon as I start to notice any type of dysregulation taking place in me, I try to get it out, whether it be with my wife, my business partner, who's also a therapist, incredibly good listener. And then if those things don't necessarily relieve or solve or understand what's going on, then I meet with a therapist who's more as an as-needed therapist to help me work through something that I'm not able to work through myself or with my support group. But I try to communicate as much as possible about what I'm noticing going on. And just kind of on the other side of that is I'm obviously not going to catch everything. So I'm much better at being able to hear from others. Hey, you seem off today, or you seem like you've been off this week. What's going on? And mostly I will say that comes from my business partner. She's very attuned and she knows me very well. She's like, you seem off. What's going on? And so it helps kind of prompt it to come out. And I'm much better now than I've been in the past at just hearing that, not shutting it down. No. Okay, let me think about that. Let's talk.
And the final question I had was, I noticed your letters came from various community members, but didn't include any licensed psychologists.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, given your interest in working with veterans, do you have a network of psychologists who work with veterans that you talk to, or that you wouldn't consult, obviously, because you're not working with that population, but that a network of support to communicate and share ideas and to learn from them?
Yes. So I wouldn't say a big community. Reading is relatively small, so I don't know offhand, but I would say there's maybe 7 psychologists in Shasta County, or in Reading, should I say. But there is one who works at the veterans home. His name's Chet Sunday, and he primarily works with veterans and first responders. He provides critical debriefing for Reading Police Department. And so he is a resource for me who, last time I was here, he wrote me a letter of support. And the main reason why I didn't ask a bunch of people to write a number of letters of support this time was because the people that I interact with almost every day are the ones who truly know me. I just wanted to be clear and concise and not have a bunch of people talk about how great I am. That's their job, kind of to tell you, it's like when you provide someone references, they're going to say good things about you. I just wanted to narrow it down and just let you all know that these are the people that are in my life. This is like my 3 pillars of support that keep me afloat whenever I start to wobble a little bit. But Chet Sunday provided a letter of support last time I was here, and he only works now at the VA.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much. Dr. Rogers, do you have a question?
No questions. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. How about
Questions for me, thank you.
All right. Dr. Phillips.
Okay. Afternoon, Dr. Fraser. Is it afternoon yet?
Feels like it.
Too far. Too early.
I know you started your meeting at 8:30. We'll continue to bitch about it till the day is done. Are you an alcoholic?
You asked me the same question last time, I remember. And I still believe I'm not an alcoholic. I believe I abused alcohol and behaved recklessly when I abused alcohol, but I don't believe that I am an alcoholic.
Why do you say that?
I don't believe I, have ever been dependent on it. I believe my mindset when I consumed alcohol was the only reason why I wanted to drink was to turn into somebody else, to turn into this confident man who could be liked and loved and accepted, do all the things that he was too embarrassed and ashamed to do when he was sober, which was like dance and just be silly. And so I believe I used it to help me become something. I abused it, should I say, to help me become something I wasn't. But in my experience, I've never wanted really to drink. I felt like it was my only avenue to become who I wanted to become. And in my opinion, an alcoholic, one becomes dependent on a substance, or I should say an addict becomes dependent on a substance, and they also crave the substance. They also feel they need the substance. And I don't feel I identify with any of those things. I've never liked alcohol. It was just that it got me to a place where I wanted to be. But I identify more as an abuser than an alcoholic.
Since since you've stopped drinking, have you ever had a desire to have a drink?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I would even say I had dreams. I had nightmares, actually, to be perfectly frank with you. I would wake up thinking I used and I was going to get in trouble. Oh my God, panic attack. But I would say I can think of a time when, a couple of times when a drink sounded good. It was, I can't remember the date or anything, but I remember working outside, like on my property, hot day, kind of, the whole perfect scenario for a cold beer. And it came into my mind. I was like, whoa, that's like the first time I've thought about having a beer. And then it quickly left. We're talking maybe 15 seconds. And I went and told my wife. I was like, oh my gosh, because I think it had been like a year since I had been on probation. And 3 years since I've had my last drink. And I went and told her, like, whoa, I thought a beer sounded good. I can remember that very distinctly because it was like the first time. And then when we went to Nashville 2 years ago, we went to a cool little speakeasy because that's what you do in Nashville, I guess. And my wife had one of their speakeasy cocktails, and I had a mocktail. And I had thought in that moment, it would be kind of cool to have a whiskey, because that's like, prohibition type of thing. Like that would be kind of cool to have like some type of whiskey drink to encapsulate the real vibe of what they're trying to create there. I would say those are the two like moments that really stand out to me, that like, oh, that sounds good.
Once you're off probation, and you have a similar moment sitting in a speakeasy in Nashville, would you have that drink?
No. Because of what I spoke to earlier, is I believe that I wouldn't have a drink and then get annihilated and make some poor mistake. I believe that in myself, I really do. But I'm unwilling to take the chance that I'm wrong. If I am wrong, and I know there's a likelihood of that, I don't want to wait. I don't even want to put that in the air. I don't even want to try to make that a possibility. If I can minimize the possibility of me being wrong, I'm going to do that 9.999 times out of 10. And so that's why I believe I wouldn't have the drink, because just as an extra layer of protection, I guess, to say is, if I'm wrong, I don't want to find out.
You're afraid of drinking again?
I wouldn't say I'm afraid of it. I'm just more careful. Like, I don't walk around thinking, oh my gosh, like if I have a drink, I'm going to lose it. It's more just like, I don't want to find out. I don't think about alcohol. So like occasionally, like there's a couple of circumstances that I've shared, it pops into my mind, but I'm not walking around wondering if I have a drink, if I'm going to fall off the deep end. I'm focusing on the things that I spoke about today, which is my wife, my kids, my community. The reality of it is I see abusers and alcoholics all the time, like in my community. It's part of part of everyone's community, and I don't want any part of that. Like that doesn't sound fun to me. That doesn't sound at all interesting to me. So I just do my best to stay clear of those circumstances.
I'm afraid to page 64 in the exhibits.
64, these aren't numbered. Oh, yeah, they are.
It's the first page of your attachment C.
I'm sorry. I might take a minute to find this attachment. You know where that is?
ECO 00062.
Oh, it's the, I was on that.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at a PDF, so it says 64, but.
The petition for early termination practice of monitor, is that what you have?
Yes. And the first question was asked, have you taken any coursework in the areas pertaining to the conduct that led to your discipline? Are we referring to the same page?
No.
Evidence. It's the evidence of.
Oh, yeah, I see that.
Follows the disciplinary sheet.
Have you taken any coursework in the areas pertaining to the conduct that led to your discipline? I answered yes.
And then you gave us a class on self-care, psychological wellness as an ethical imperative, building your ethical self, and working with traumatized teens and young adults.
Yes.
What behavior do you think and it brought you before the board?
My substance use and deception.
And how did these in particular relate to that?
I think because self-care, ethical self-care, I think it is, or even psychological wellness and self-care is, I believe it is imperative for me to continue to reduce any chances of me abusing substances again.
During the period of time you've been on probation, have you taken any courses or done any additional training in substance use and abuse?
While on probation, I ran a mental health, an intensive outpatient program, substance abuse program for 3 years. And so I was constantly in the world of learning about all of that.
Did you take specific training related to it?
You'll have to forgive me. I would like to say, I can't recall offhand, but I would like to say that when I submitted my petition 2 years ago, that there were a couple of trainings that I took in relation to substance abuse. I just cannot recall exactly what they were, so I apologize.
I appreciate that. So your final violation was on April 20th of 1922, or 2020?
Yes.
Was that prior to your last petition?
That was prior. Yeah, I violated in April 22. Well, let me rephrase that. I can't recall when I mailed in my application. My petition in front of the board was November of 2022. And I had violated in April or prior that year, but I believe I actually submitted my application in like July of 21 or June of 21. You have to forgive me. I don't know the exact dates, but I believe I submitted my application before that. We were supposed to have, it's coming back to me. We were supposed to have a hearing in February of 2022. Sacramento had an uptick in COVID. And so they offered the hearing to be over the phone, I believe, or maybe WebEx. I declined. I'd much rather have been in person. And so we waited until November to be in person. That's what I recall.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Dr. Harp-Sheets, any questions?
I have a couple questions.
Sure.
Kind of piggybacking on one of Dr. Phillips' questions, when he asked if you saw yourself as an alcoholic, and you described an alcoholic would be somebody who needed alcohol, and yet you described yourself as needing it to be this person. How do you kind of make those two statements kind of fit? They seem sort of...
Yeah. No, I understand that and how that can be confusing. I would say, I guess when I speak to that is I no longer feel I need any substances to be who I am. I remember in my last narrative statement, I wrote about how I go to weddings and I dance and I act goofy and I do the things that I couldn't do without alcohol. I do anything I still want to do without any alcohol. And so that's how I believe that I haven't needed any alcohol or substance to provide me the courage to embrace who I am, basically, and not allow the fear of rejection from others to dictate whether I be that person or not. So I may have needed it when I was abusing it to become this person, but I don't believe there's any need whatsoever for substances in my life to be who I am and accept who I am today. And I haven't felt that way for 7 years since I've stopped drinking. Well, to be honest, actually longer than that, because I had a glass of champagne at my wedding in 2017, but prior to that, I hadn't had a drink in about a year.
So would you say that, that since you needed it prior, to be that person,
Sure.
that at that time you were an alcoholic?
Well, I didn't just say you needed it. I believe I spoke to needing it, being dependent on it, craving it. I don't think one thing makes somebody an alcoholic. I think it's a number of things factored in that contributes to being an alcoholic. And so I identified as not meeting any of those other things. It was more of just one purpose of why I drank. And none of those things I can say are true today and haven't been true for a very long time. And so I guess I had one aspect of what I consider someone to be classified an alcoholic, but I don't believe I had all the encompassing criteria, in my own opinion, for someone to be an alcoholic.
Okay. I have another question. You know, you have an organization that works with veterans.
Well, it doesn't. I can't work with them yet because I'm not contracted with the.
Oh, but does your organization, Drew's Place, work with veterans?
I think one of the other my business partner Stacy has worked with one veteran, but we're not contracted with TRICARE.
Okay, so your goal is to open. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Of course, no, that was the whole reason why I, in terms of my half of the inspiration for Drew's Place, was to work with veterans and individuals with significant trauma.
Okay, I would just want to clarify. And I just have one other question. You know, when you had the probation violations and you said that you felt, I don't know if the word was resentful or something, but, and so you engaged in, you know, not testing, not checking in, and then something shifted and into a different approach. And I wondered if you could talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. I'd like to clarify that. I wasn't violating because I was resentful, and it wasn't.
I shouldn't have. I mean,
no, that's okay. I was resentful of being placed on probation because I didn't think I needed it. The probation violations were, other than the one where there wasn't a man to observe me, and the two where I chose not to provide a specimen because of the early COVID pandemic. So the other 5. Those were based, I can honestly say, on just being irresponsible and immature and not having the necessary guardrails in place to make sure I didn't miss a check-in. And it was, I believe it was Curtis Gardner who suggested, why don't you do something about this? This keeps being a kind of a problem. You know, maybe like set an alarm or have someone remind you just in case you did forget. And so ever since he made that suggestion, I have been using that. So I have an alarm that goes off at 7 in the morning. My wife has an alarm that goes off at 12:13 every afternoon, just in case I forgot. So it's always check-in reminder, and I text her, all good, boo, thanks. Literally, that's the exact same thing happens at 12:13 every single day, 365 days a year. What I will say is, and it's not an excuse, because I did have an alarm, but my most recent violation was in April of 2022. I was at a board meeting at 7 in the morning, and I turned my alarm off so that it wouldn't go off in the middle of the board meeting, and I forgot to turn it back on. If I had had that extra step in place, I wouldn't have violated, but I didn't. And so that's why it is in place, so that I don't make that same mistake again.
Okay, so you're basically saying that structurally you made some changes.
Yes. Exactly. And I always check every night before I go to bed just to make sure I checked in. And it's not funny, but what I did have in my letter was that the couple of stressors I have in my life are the mild heart attack I have whenever I think I didn't check in. I'll check in. I already did, but I forgot that I checked in. That's, you know, it's not end of the world stuff, but it's a little just panicky feeling I get, or laying in bed at night. Did I check in? I don't remember Kelsey texting me. I don't remember doing it. Oh, okay, fine. You know, but those are the little things that are not honestly derailing me in any way, shape, or form, but there's just like what feel like a little heart attack for about a millisecond.
Thank you, Dr. Francis.
You're very welcome.
Ms. Nystrom, do you have any questions?
Dr. Francis, I do not have any questions, but thank you for your time and being here today.
Thank you.
How about you, Dr. Kasuga?
A couple of questions to the previous questioning about the abuser versus alcoholic theme.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to make sure I understood abuser versus alcoholic sense that you have about your previous behavior. So are you, do you feel like it is more like an escape behavior that you use substances to get to that person that you're trying to be? Was that more of like an escape behavior?
Yeah, so I kind of viewed it as there was a purpose why I drank. Not that it was a good purpose, the right purpose in any way, shape, or form, but it was never, let's have a couple beers and then I can't stop drinking and I drink too much and can't control it. My goal when I drank was to abuse alcohol. It was to drink enough to become this version of myself that I thought I liked. So whenever I chose to do that, it would happen. But it was never, I never tried to, how do I describe this? In my opinion, someone who struggles as an alcoholic believes that they can have a couple drinks, they can, control it, they have deceived themselves in the way that they have power and control over the substance. I never even had the discussion. It was, I want to drink a lot because I want to go be able to flirt. I want to go be able to be the funniest guy that my friends think I'm super cool and think I'm the bee's knees. I want to be all the things that I thought people liked. And so I just had intention behind why I drank. It was intentional the way I drank, and so I chose to abuse. I never felt dependent on it. It was more like, I want to go be that guy. Let me put my mask on. Boop. And the mask was, beer and whiskey. But I never had this internal dialogue around like, oh, I just want to have a couple beers, and then it somehow always turned into me being reckless. And that's kind of how I view abuse versus dependent/alcoholic. And I think it's important to note that in the most recent psychological evaluation I had done by Dr. Roeder, he even acknowledged that I have a substance abuse or substance use disorder. He never used the word alcoholic in the report. And, and so I think it's like, I feel that way. It sounds like I interpret the report that if he thought I was an alcoholic, I believe he would have spoke to that. But substance use disorder in remission is what he diagnosed me with. And I believe that was what the first psychologist that evaluated me. And I can't remember, Cyrus Mozam, Dr. Mozam noted that as well.
So, so you're saying it's for a purpose, and it's to assume this like different character, like more confident with flirting or yes. More confident, funnier person.
Yes.
Do you ever feel the need to kind of like, be that? Like if you're feeling not confident and maybe you want to be something else, do you have alternative behaviors or alternative
ways to become that person?
Yeah, because if that's your conceptualization of why you were using before, I'm just trying to figure out what has changed.
Yeah.
Because I can assume you also sometimes feel the need to not be you or be funnier or be,
of course,
more confident. I would just.
Yeah. No, thank you for asking that question. And I'm definitely open to acknowledge that there are plenty of times when I don't feel as confident or as happy or as brave or whatever other these identities that I wanted to possess when I was abusing alcohol. There are plenty of opportunities where I don't feel those things, even as a professional. Oh man, am I doing the right thing with this person? Should I have pushed them? Should I have supported them there? But the difference between then and now is I understand that that's normal. Before, I thought I was always supposed to be this person. I was supposed to basically be invincible. I should always be funny. I should always at least portray that nothing bothers me and so on and so forth, because that was weakness if you did those things. I mean, clearly I cried today, so I think I've overcome some fears of looking weak or lack of confidence. But so today, the difference is I know that if there's moments where I don't feel confident or I even feel embarrassed or ashamed or sad about something, that is a normal, healthy response to most likely what's going on around me. And the things I have in place, such as speaking with my wife, speaking with my business partner, speaking with my best friend, Gabe, or even the other friends that I have in my life, those are the things that I do. I no longer say, oh, no, I'm supposed to be confident, so I need to hurry up and do something to get me back to being this guy. There is no need to go there anymore. So that's the difference. Is I don't believe that like the fallacy of always being confident, always being boisterous, always being the guy is what is healthy. So I don't actually want to be that. I want to be human. I want to be sad. I don't want to be, but I want to be able to experience sadness, embarrassment, confidence, shame, happiness, the whole range of emotions. I want to be able to do that because I believe in my heart that that is actually a healthy experience as a human being. So that's the difference. Yeah, you're welcome. Cool.
So my second question is with regards to the deception with the application. So I appreciate your acknowledgement of that. What guarantees can you provide the board to make us feel that wouldn't be an issue moving forward, that, feeling the need to deceive?
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether you see that could be problematic for us to kind of like provide you a clear and, free and clear license.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, a couple of things come up for me. One is I can't guarantee that I will never do that because I'm pretty sure we can't guarantee anything, but I can guarantee that I will continue to work as hard as I can and use the supports and all the resources I have available to me to continue to strive to be like a better version of myself to prevent any chance of that ever happening again. But I feel like a guarantee is like 100% that will never happen again. And I just don't think that exists in the world, not for me, but I think even for anyone in this room. But I can guarantee that I will work tirelessly to maintain my mental health, maintain my well-being, use the supports I have in place, like I said just before this, to if any bumps start to come up or any maybe old behaviors want to creep up, to acknowledge if someone is being able to say, hey, you seem X, Y, or Z, or I start to notice, why am I starting to do that? And be able to lean on my supports. And again, if those don't work, then reach out to my therapist that I have who is available when I reach by myself or with my supports. The second thing, I lost my train of thought. So there is no second thing anymore. I apologize. There is, it's floating around in there, but I apologize that it was good too. Dang, sorry.
Well, thank you for asking.
Of course, of course.
Ms. Riscate, do you have any questions?
Yes, I have one question. When you were responding to Mr. Fu, you mentioned the driving with a suspended license. You kind of said you weren't a danger to people, but it was wrong because it was illegal.
Correct.
So I was just wondering, do you think when people do have their license suspended that it's unnecessary or not a big deal, or like? Oh,
no, of course not. No, I still think you should definitely have your driver's license, and people driving on suspended license should not be happening. Shouldn't be happening. I just don't think it's A equals B. I don't have a license, and therefore I'm a danger. I think there's more to it than that. But I guess what I was trying to portray is I wasn't. I didn't feel that when I was driving without a license, I was any more dangerous than if I had my license. Like I still knew how to drive. I still knew how to stay between the lines and go the speed limit and those type of things. But by all means, it's very clear that I shouldn't have been driving. I hope I didn't portray any indication that I thought it was okay in any way. I just know like drinking and driving, now I'm putting lives at risk, right? Like I could kill myself, I could kill somebody else or just harm them, at the least harm them. Whereas I feel me driving sober, I'm not at risk of hurting a human being. That's what I meant by that. So I'm sorry if it was unclear and I made it sound like it was okay to do that.
Thank you very much. Was that all the questions?
Yes.
Thank you. And we're about at time, but if there is any board member that has a burning question, just let me know. Doesn't look that way. Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Wolanski. Thank you very much, Dr. Francis. Regardless of the outcome, wish you the very best moving forward. At this time, the record is closed and the matter is submitted for decision. We can go off the record in this matter. I'll turn it back to you, Madam President.
Perfect. So we're going to take a brief break. Let's do 13-ish to 11:05, and everyone will return back at 11:05 for our next petition. Thank you so much. We are back. It is 11:05. Ms. Boone, can you please call the roll?
Tate.
Here.
Rogers.
Here.
Kasuga.
Here.
Cervantes.
Here.
Fu.
Aye.
Harbsheets.
Here.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Here. Quorum is established.
Thank you so much. I'm turning over this petition to Judge Van Rooyen.
Thank you very much, Madam President. All right, Madam Court Reporter, we can go on the record. We're on the record before the Board of Psychology, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California, and we're here to review our second and final petition today on the agenda. That is the petition for early termination of probation filed by Sarwat Bashir Warich. I'll spell the name as it is on the pleading, Sarwat, S-A-R-W-A-T, Bashir, B-A-S-H-I-R, Warich, W-A-R-A-I-C-H. The OAH case number is 2024-100-152, and the Board of Psychology case number is 600-2024-000-942. My name is Vim Van Rooyen. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings that's been assigned to preside over this matter today. Today is November 7th, 2024. It's approximately 11:07 a.m., and we're conducting this matter both in person and via WebEx. Right before we went on the record, we took a roll call again of the board members, and I will let the record reflect that we do have a quorum of the board present to hear this petition. With that said, let me have appearances, starting with the Attorney General, please.
Welcome to the Attorney General's Office, Deputy Attorney General Jansen Tan, T-A-N, Tan.
And good morning to you, Mr. Tan.
Good morning, Your Honor.
And then for the petitioner, if you could just state your name for the record, please. Thank you.
Sarwat Bashir Warich.
All right, welcome and good morning. Thank you very much for being here. I provided you all with a brief off-the-record orientation, but just to summarize, essentially the Deputy Attorney General will go first today, just provide the board with a background of the disciplinary history in this case and what brings us here today, as well as introduce the petition packets and exhibits for us. And then after that, you will have an opportunity, Ms. Warich, to make a presentation under oath to the board and explain why you believe your petition should be granted. The focus today really is not so much on what happened in the past and the disciplinary history. We will have that summary just to provide context for the board members, but the focus is looking forward and at the rehabilitative efforts you've engaged in, and to determine whether the board believes that you are safe to practice without supervision. That's essentially the focus of this hearing. I'll just remind you that they have had an opportunity to review your petition packet and exhibit, so you certainly don't need to repeat everything that's in there, but you're welcome to emphasize or highlight certain portions you think are particularly relevant that you want to bring to their attention. After the hearing today, the board will go into a closed session to deliberate, so you won't be receiving an oral decision today, but you will get a written decision in the mail at some point in the future. Do you have any questions before we get started?
Thank you so much, Your Honor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Warich. And then I will turn first to Mr. Tan to provide us with the history of the case and the exhibits, whichever order you prefer. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor. Madam President, members of the board, Your Honor, my name is Deputy Attorney General Jansen Tan, and I'm appearing on behalf of the Attorney General's Office pursuant to Government Code Section 11522. I am here to assist the board in fact-finding My role is not adversarial, but is intended to protect the public interest. I am here to ensure that the board has adequate information from which to make a decision. Your Honor, should I go ahead and proceed with the exhibits, Your Honor, and perhaps a brief description? We had it pre-marked and filed at the case center. It was served to petitioner. We have Exhibit 1, which are the certified documents of the disciplinary history. It has the stipulated agreements, accusations, decisions from the board. These are jurisdictional. We have Exhibit number 2, the certificate of licensure of the petitioner. Again, it is for jurisdictional and purposes as well. We have Exhibit 3, which is the notice of hearing. This came from the board, which shows that the notice was adequately given to the petitioner. She's here now, so it's not an issue. Exhibit 4 is the petitioner's petition. This is the filing filed by petitioner. And Exhibit number 5 is the probation compliance report. It's prepared by the board's probation department. We have Exhibit 6, which is broken into 3 exhibits due to its volume. It is probation file part 1, part 2, and part 3. These contain all the elements of the probation, including the biological fluid testing results, letters, evaluations, and whatnot, quarterly reports as well. Exhibits 7 and 8 were submitted by petitioner, I guess 2-3 weeks ago, perhaps, which hopefully made it to your packets. With that, Your Honor, we would like to move all of this into evidence, Your Honor, just for ease.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. Any objection to Exhibits 1 through 8 being admitted? Thank you. Exhibits 1 through 8 are admitted. Mr. Tan, and before you proceed, I also noticed that you did file a request for a protective order in this matter. I just want to make sure we memorialize that for the record. The request was to seal and protect Exhibits 4, 5, and 6, which includes 3, 7, and 8. And the basis for that is because these include medical information and records, personal financial information, and witness information. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
All right. Any objection to me granting the protective order? Thank you very much. The protective order is granted. I do find this information is appropriate to seal and protect confidentiality and privacy interests, and so I will sign the order, and that will accompany the record along with the board record. So thank you very much. Mr. Tan, you can proceed now. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the board, let me give you a summary of how we got here. So the genesis of this case is that on October 29, 2018, petitioner was convicted of a misdemeanor in violation of Penal Code 23152B, which is a DUI, where the blood alcohol level was greater than 0.08%. She pled nolo contendere, and the court suspended her sentence and placed her on informal probation with various terms and conditions, including a first offender class, which she completed. This conviction was based on petitioner's arrest on May 23rd, 2018 at approximately 8:30 a.m. Now, at the time, her blood alcohol level was at a 0.27% at the time of arrest. Subsequently, an accusation was filed on January 2019 for violations of Business and Professions Code 2960B, in that she used alcohol in a manner dangerous to herself and others, and also alleging a violation of 2960A, which is a conviction of a crime. On August 14, 2019, the parties entered into a stipulated settlement. The board adopted a stipulation. The decision was effective October 11, 2019. Petitioner was placed on probation for 5 years with other terms and conditions, which are a psychological evaluation, weekly therapy, inpatient or outpatient drug abuse program, regular support groups such as AA, and a biological fluid testing. Now, respondent immediately violated the biological fluid testing on numerous occasions after probation. She first violated her probation when she failed to register with the board's testing contractor on October 11, 2019. Instead, she registered on October 14, 2019, so about the 3-day difference. She violated her probation again by failing to check in on October 29th, November 8th, November 22nd, 2019. She violated the probation again when she failed to submit a sample on December 30th, 2019, January 26th, 2020, and March 8th, 2020. She violated her probation again when she consumed alcohol, as confirmed positive on fluid test on November 18, November 25, 2019, December 12, 2019, January 3, February 4, and April 21, 2020. She violated her probation also by submitting her first probation report late. The report was due on June 7, 2020, and she violated her probation again by signing her quarterly declaration stating that she had complied with the terms of probation when clearly she has not. The board ordered her to cease practice on January 2, 2020. Petitioner complied, and then there was a hearing on the petition to revoke her probation before an ALJ, and the board issued a decision effective January 2, 2021, suspending petitioner's license through March 30, 2021. The board also put petitioner on probation for the original term plus the period of time from which the cease practice order and suspension occurred through March 30, 2021. She was also ordered to remain in treatment with Dr. Monica Powers, her therapist, and if Dr. Powers is no longer available, she must find a replacement therapist who shall be her psychologist, which happened in this case. Psychotherapy shall be as a minimum of 22 weeks. She has the other terms and conditions as well, a worksite monitor, that should be a California psychologist, an ongoing support group program, abstention from alcohol, coursework, ethics. The petitioner's term of probation with everything tacked on is estimated to end January 7, 2026. Now, because it is the petitioner's burden to prove that she has been rehabilitated, I haven't had my coffee. I would like to turn over, I guess, the mic to petitioner, but I do want to reserve the right to question her. I do have some cross-examination questions. Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. Appreciate that, and you will have that opportunity. So, first, Dr. Warridge, would you like to testify on your own behalf? Thank you. Let me actually swear you in before you start. You could raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you so much. Please state and spell your name for the record.
Bashir Warridge, first name Sarwat, last name Waraich.
Thank you very much. Since you don't have an attorney to ask you questions, I will let you testify freely in a conversational format. Tell us what you think is relevant to your petition. Again, the board members have read everything you've submitted, so you can assume they're familiar with it, but you can certainly highlight portions you'd like. Once you're done, Mr. Tan may have questions for you, and the board members may have questions for you. So with that said, you have the floor whenever you're ready. Thank you.
Okay. First, I just wanted to sincerely thank the board for having the opportunity to hear my case for early termination of probation. Most importantly, I really wanted to thank the board for having this program. This program, being on probation, literally saved my life and so many others in so many ways. I know that it was like blood, sweat, and tears to get me to where I am today, but probation changed my life forever. And I thank you for this. I never thought there was going to be an end to my suffering. And with everything that I had to go through with probation, I finally found, my life has been restored and there's a new meaning to my life. I wanted to say that the trauma of watching my father, he had an ongoing battle, 15 years with cancer, that started my drinking. Unfortunately, I didn't have the coping skills in place at the time, and I was coping with drinking during that time. And then following his death, watching the new challenge of my mother's battle with dementia, I was also the caretaker for both. That was when the drinking got really bad. And I can now see these are triggers, and I want to make it clear that these are not excuses. There are absolutely no excuses for my drinking behavior. And I can see now that I definitely have a disease and I am an alcoholic, and that's something that I have to live with for the rest of my life. I fully take and accept all accountability for every action, every violation. I take full responsibility for all of my actions, and I have no excuses for the risk that I took onto myself and onto the public, and for that I sincerely apologize. I have so much shame, guilt, and remorse. I know that I can't change the past, but I know that I can only make changes for the future. I'm so sorry, I was thinking I was going to get emotional too. I understand that at the start of probation, I failed really brilliantly at everything. At this time, looking back, I was way too deep into my addiction, and I couldn't see clearly. I didn't take probation seriously. When I was going through all my forms and I look back at some of the email exchanges and the stuff that I had said and the stuff I thought I could get away with, I literally cringe with so much remorse. I don't know who that person was, except that I know that that person was in a lot of pain and suffering. So I sincerely apologize for all of that. So it was after my cease practice order that I definitely hit rock bottom, and I didn't have anywhere to go but above. So that was where my rehabilitation took place. I enrolled in Roots Through Recovery, which was a partial day treatment program, which was for 8 months. I went 5 days a week, 6 hours a day, and that graduated to 5 days a week, 3 hours a day until I successfully completed the program. I saw Dr. Torrington, who specialized in addiction medicine, weekly for a year. I also completed the 52 weeks with Dr. Monica Powers, which I continued, and I successfully did 3 years of individual therapy with Dr. Powers. At the beginning, for the first, I would say 2 years, I attended up to 3 AA meetings a week. I had 2 different sponsors, and I've exceeded the amount of required courses in substance abuse and in ethics. I'm also a certified clinical trauma professional. I was completed 8 months of EMDR for the trauma that I had experienced. I have definitely created a lifestyle that includes prayer, meditation, and exercise. I am currently still in treatment with my individual therapist. I definitely meet with my worksite monitor, who I also have been meeting with. At the beginning, I met with her weekly for, I don't know how many years that was, but we did go to every other week. So I am meeting with my worksite monitor, and I am unstable on my psychotropic medications for my depression and anxiety. And I understand the board is worried about relapse, of course. And I'm not saying this for sympathy, but since April 2020, when I decided to become completely sober and change my life, I have been faced with a lot of significant challenges. It was at the beginning of COVID, and I was also caring for my mom. I had dementia, and I just had the cease practice order. Obviously, I had to end all of my unhealthy relationships. Since that time, I've had a lot of health scares. Like, I had eye surgery that went bad. I was blind for several weeks, and I still Ubered myself all the way to my testing. I had to get recently a stent to my heart, and Savannah's been, by the way, Savannah's an amazing probation officer. I don't know what I would have done without her, but you know, giving her all the medications and making sure that everything's in there in case I get tested for anything. I had a stent placed in. When I was grieving, everyone told me to get a puppy, which I did, and he died of parvo like 2 weeks later, and I had to put him down. And yeah, I tried online dating. I mean, that's enough to start a relapse, right? But I never once had a craving to return to alcohol because I know how the story unfolds. As it says in AA, you know, it starts with a thought and a desire and a craving, and that one sip that you think is just one sip never ends up being one sip. It ends up being an allergy, like my body has an allergy to alcohol, and I'll just go down that road and it won't stop there. And I know that if I start or pick up another drink, that'll just be my demise and my death. So I know no matter what happens, I'm never going to pick up another sip of alcohol in my life. I truly believe that I'm an example of what probation is meant for, which is rehabilitation. I have proof of 4 years, 11 months of celebrating my sobriety. I understand now, and I have the tools and in place to avoid relapse. I've improved relationships, support systems, and coping skills to face future struggles. I do want to say that my last violation for testing positive for alcohol was on 21, 2020. That was also my last violation of probation until recently last year was on 5/23, 2023, where I failed to check in and submit. I honestly don't know how that happened, and I'm not going to challenge it. I'll take full responsibility and just call it a human error. I wake up at 5 a.m. every single day, as it says in these. I saw all of the numerous check-ins. That's the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is to check in because it has to change my whole entire day. And embarrassingly, I check a million times a day just in case because it feels like Groundhog Day. Every day feels like a Groundhog Day. Did I check? Oh my God, I don't know if I checked and what did I do? But I didn't want to contest it because I didn't want to appear defiant to the board. So that's why I didn't petition for early termination last year. We thought it would be better since it was such a recent violation. I've gone above and beyond to complete my testing and everything that the probation has asked of me. I also want to say that I'm 100% committed to my sobriety. I'm 100% committed to being an exemplary psychologist. And I'm 100% committed to show to the board that I have rehabilitated and safe to practice in the field of psychology. I know that you guys have all the quotes that I sent you, but I did do, that's a really big one. I don't know, I'll get lost in that. I had another, because I thought I was going to testify last year for early termination, and I had an expert report for my last evaluation on 12/22. Dr. Klaus had said Dr. Warsh presents as an authentic and truthful in her disclosure of events. She shows remorse for her actions and does not have any previous legal convictions. She is currently receiving services to maintain her sobriety and mental health. Dr. Warsh does not present as a risk to herself or others for purposes of providing psychological services to the public. And I won't read all of the rest, but I do have more from my my current individual therapist, from Dr. Monica Powers, who I was with for 3 years, my worksite monitor, and also my friends and family. For these reasons, I would be honored to be accepted the privilege of early termination of probation. And although I continue to work on forgiving myself, which is something I know that will be a lifelong process, I humbly ask the board for forgiveness and to approve of my rehabilitation as a promise to be a competent psychologist and human being. And I thank you again for taking the time for hearing my case.
Thank you, Dr. Warridge. At this time, I'm going to turn to Mr. Tan to see if he has questions for you. Mr. Tan, would you like to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor. Excuse me. Ma'am, are you currently under investigation by any licensing or law enforcement agency?
Under investigation?
Yes, if you know.
No.
Is that, no, you don't know, or you're not under investigation of any law enforcement or?
No, I'm not.
And these are just preliminary.
Oh, okay.
So don't be.
No.
There's going to be a lot of these canned questions. We just want to make sure, like, for example, for the next one is, other than the DUI conviction in October 2018, have you ever been arrested or convicted of a crime or misdemeanor?
No.
Okay. Do you hold any other licenses in California or another state?
No.
So you have never been disciplined by any other state or government agency, correct?
No.
And during probation, have you ever been terminated from employment?
No.
Okay. And can you describe your current employment? How many patients do you see?
Yeah, I develop my own private practice. I see about 30 to 35 clients a week. I work primarily with veterans, but I do have a specialty on narcissistic abuse recovery. That is my current practice at the moment.
Thank you, ma'am. And you mentioned, Dr. Klaus, this is the comprehensive psychological evaluation we had in 2022, correct?
2022, yes.
When is your sobriety date?
4/28/2020.
So you took the evaluation after your sobriety. You were sober during this time, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Could
And I
you-
did the initial evaluation at the beginning of probation with Dr. Parati as required.
Could you turn to AGO 135 of the binder in front of you?
AGO 135?
Yeah, on the bottom right corner, there's a page number there.
Oh, okay.
And it should be Exhibit 4. So go ahead and tap over to Exhibit 4, and I just wanted to clarify some statements
Sure.
you made to your therapist.
Yes. Okay.
Tell me when you're there.
AGO 135.
Okay. So you reported to Dr. Clore, I forget his name. Klaus. Sorry.
Call for the court reporter to
Louse, Klaus. You reported to Dr. Klaus that when you were arrested, you had 3 Long Island iced teas late at night and then went to sleep for a few hours and got up and went to work.
Yes.
And that was it for a 9 a.m. appointment. You were arrested about 8:30 a.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you stated that after being pulled over, you were brutally honest with the officers that you had drunk or drank heavily the previous evening and cooperated with their investigation. And then it showed the breathalyzer showing a 0.20, correct?
Yes,
So,
correct.
okay. I'd like you to take a look at now page 70.
70?
Yes, AGO 70. So this is a decision order by the court and the board on the petition to terminate your probation. So on page 70, these contain facts that were found during that hearing. And there, the findings of fact were that at approximately 8:30 a.m., you were arrested. You were stopped by a deputy. The deputy contacted you, and you claimed, the statement that you made was that you claimed that you had nothing to drink for 2 weeks, and that you needed to leave to go to an appointment with a patient, and you disclosed that you were a psychologist.
Yes.
So
if I can.
could you explain? Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So at the time, and embarrassing, when he pulled me over, I was clearly intoxicated and I wasn't saying the truth. By the time I did the psychological evaluation, I was very honest with her and told her exactly what had happened.
Oh, okay. So you weren't honest with a police officer?
Absolutely not.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. It seemed like the way you reported it was...
I take full accountability for all of my actions. I completely attest that I did do that.
Okay. So the truth is that you had the Long Island iced teas
Yes, I
late
did.
at night.
Yes, that's the truth. I was honest with her about everything.
And that was at night. But you still blew a .20. That's kind of hard to do with Long Island iced tea.
Yeah, I could be brutally honest with you. So one way I would manage my anxiety, or you would say the DTs in the morning, was to have a shot in the morning.
So you also had the shot in the
Yes.
morning? Okay.
So,
not just at night?
yes.
Okay. Because Dr. Klaus said that you had the Long Island, or what you reported to Dr. Klaus was you just drank at night.
Yes.
Okay. So you did take a drink that morning
I
right
did,
before you
which
drove. Okay.
The blood alcohol level.
So then moving on to Dr. Klaus's recommendation, he knew that you were going to file for early termination when he...
She
did. Okay. Now on AGO 136, he stated, Dr. Klaus stated, tell me when you're there.
Yeah, I'm here.
Want you to catch up. I am on line 20 of AGO 136. How's my time? She stated, Dr. Klaus stated that Dr. Varesh stated she loves AA but has gotten away from the meetings in the past months due to the feeling they've been triggering, and she fears relapse and wanted to surround herself with more solid recovery. Is that statement accurate?
Absolutely.
Okay. And then on the next page, on AGO 137, paragraph 9, Dr. Klaus' recommendation was as follows: that Dr. Varesh continue individual therapy that Dr. Warish consider exploring an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting that has quality sobriety, and that Dr. Warish involve herself in an alternative recovery community such as Refuge Recovery, and then that she continue abstaining and continue with positive coping strategies. That statement is accurate, as I read it, correct?
Absolutely.
My question, two questions actually. First is, you didn't continue with Alcoholics Anonymous, is that correct? You instead went with Dr. Monica Powers?
Yes, so we reduced from the AA meetings, I continue with Dr. Powers for the rest of after the 52 weeks and the 3 years. On the dates that I didn't meet with Monica Powers, then I would have an AA meeting that week. Okay. And that shows in the logs.
So you continue with Alcoholics Anonymous as well?
No, I switched over to, sometimes to this day, I still watch the, what are they called? When they present their cases, but I am more into the Refuge Recovery.
Okay. Is there a reason why you did not follow the recommendation by Dr. Klaus? That you seek out an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting that has quality sobriety?
We're exploring an AA meeting that has quality sobriety, so an alternative recovery community such as Refuge Recovery, which is what I have been attending.
Okay. Now, I also note that in this recommendation, Dr. Klaus didn't say it out loud, that she believes that you should be off probation. Is that correct?
I don't know if she's actually said that. I think she has said that I no longer present as a danger to the public.
For as long as you continue with treatment, correct? Which the recommendations are basically synonymous with your probation, correct?
Yeah.
Moving on, what step were you in AA? Did you complete the whole 12 steps?
Absolutely.
Okay. What's your favorite step?
The first one, that I'm powerless over alcohol in my life.
Could you name the 12 steps?
I can.
You can?
Yes. You want me to name them all?
Maybe just.
I am powerless. Step one is I'm powerless over alcohol.
Without reading, of course.
That my life has become manageable. That power greater than me can restore me to sanity, to turn my willingness over to a higher power. Four is the hardest one. That was the one I didn't like, the inventory, personal inventory, I'm so nervous right now. I can't think of all of them.
Okay, that's fine. I think we've had enough. Yeah, you can move on.
That's fine.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Now, Dr. Torrington, do you recall him?
Yes, of course. He specializes in addiction medicine.
And you were with him for, I guess, during the time that you filed your petition for, the petition to revoke probation, correct? He was the expert, I believe.
And he was the expert witness, yes.
Yeah. Could you turn to page 77? That's going to be on Exhibit 1, AGO 77.
Mm-hmm.
So, ending this hearing, Dr. Torrington pointed out that you missed another test. This test wasn't included in my summary. This was during the time of between August 6, 2020 and August 18. It says on paragraph 26, you had one missed test at 11 p.m. on the 6th.
Oh, this was the additional testing that I did through SoberLink. Okay. He had recommended that I also do an additional testing on top of everything else. So I had a breathalyzer, obviously, in my car for a very long time. And there's a letter from the other Adaptaware that said I extended my breathalyzer, which he's never seen before. But Dr. Torrington also wanted me to have another additional breathalyzer that I had in my room that I would test. And so I missed one day of those. The compliance test is in my records. I showed
the next day.
Yeah, I showed that there was one missed test.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify because that was in my summary. You missed another test but then the next day you tested compliant. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then Dr. Torrington also recommended that you stop taking Xanax or other benzodiazepines for your anxiety,
Yes.
as it is in his opinion that this class of drugs makes you susceptible to alcohol abuse.
Yes.
You agree with that statement?
Absolutely.
But you are currently...
I have the prescription as needed in case I have a panic attack, but I have honestly not taken a Xanax for about 3 years. I took one before my heart surgery and one before my eye surgery, as recommended by the doctors.
So
it's not in my system, and I can attest to my blood samples.
Okay. But in your list of medications, you do have it for 2023 and 2024.
I do have that on there because it's as needed in case there's a crisis or something that I need to take when I want to make sure that it's on the list of medications.
You were prescribed alprazolam, which is Xanax, and also trazodone, correct?
Yes, I do take trazodone for sleep.
Okay. Is there any reason why you didn't fill the prescription? Is that correct? Did you fill the prescription for Xanax?
I still have it, but it's probably expired at this point. It's just on my list of my prescriptions in case.
But you have the physical drug in your possession?
Yes.
But you're not taking it?
No. Kind of like a safety belt kind of a thing in case I need to break it in half and
That's
I can't.
Dr. Torrington's advice, correct?
Yeah, yes.
Xanax in possession?
And I have successfully gotten off of the Xanax.
Now, you did also mention that you currently just missed a test, is that correct?
Yes, in 2000, it was last year.
May 2nd, 2023?
Yes.
Let's go take a look. AGO, page 95.
Yeah. AGOP. I have it written down on my notes. I know that my last violation was I was failed to check in, and I was also called in to submit a fluid sample on that 5/23/2023.
And it looks like you paid a fine, $1,500.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, you do realize that, Doctor, you have had a history of missed tests.
Yes.
Last one being May 2023, and then before that, during the hearing, I think it was, we mentioned Dr. Torrington, 2020.
Well, that was the additional testing that I put upon myself. But
And
yes,
also,
you're right. Okay, yeah, I take full responsibility.
Okay. So how about, let's talk about your stressors.
Yes.
I know I've read all of Dr. Monica Powers' notes. It looks like you have some familial issues,
yes,
personal issues. What is your support network like?
I have a very solid support system. I have reconciled with my siblings. We are all very close. I still keep in touch with my friends from Roots Through Recovery. We have a very solid group that meet once a month. I have my friends from high school, and they do continue to drink, but I have absolutely no craving. I have some Facebook online groups that I turn to for support. I have my therapist. I do attend refuge recovery meetings, and that pretty much consists of my support groups. I just recently joined this women's group over 50s on Facebook, so I'm trying to do meetups with them. But that consists of my support groups.
Should the petition today not be granted, do you believe that you will relapse?
Absolutely not.
What are your plans in the future?
Continue.
If it was granted, sorry.
Oh, what are my plans for the future if it was granted?
Yes.
It would ease me.
Professionally, of course.
Professionally really wouldn't change much, except that I can improve my practice by getting onto insurance panels, and it would definitely help my financial stability because it is a large cost. It would reduced my anxiety tremendously because I live, eat, and breathe probation. I am probation. Like my everyday revolves around probation. My friends all know me. Like I don't make plans because I don't know what I'm going to have to do. So I feel like I would be more able to forgive myself and also just know that the board would be able to forgive me for what I've done. But according to my drinking and everything, my sobriety means everything to me. So nothing would change there.
And Dr. Nazreen Frost?
Yes, she's my current therapist.
She's still current. She started on January 2024, is that correct? Yes. And what about Dr. Monica Powers? Do you still see her?
I do not.
And then you also submitted a report. I don't know if I want to call it a report, a letter by.
Oh, yes. Sure.
Tully,
the only thing, Dr. Brock, yeah, I did 8 months of EMDR treatment weekly for the trauma, and I didn't submit the confirmation letter with his signature, but I do have that with me if you want a copy of it. I don't.
Was there any specific reason why you did not secure another comprehensive psychological evaluation?
I just done one in 2022, correct? Yes.
The reason I ask is because the report submitted by Dr. Klaus had recommendations. It looked like he did not really say it, the magic word, so to speak, that I support this petition for early termination probation. You agreed wasn't there, right? The words.
I'd have to reread it.
Yeah.
The whole report.
Dr. Klaus's report is on page 1 through 5.
Okay.
Oh, 1 through 5.
I don't think we have the time for me to reread the whole thing, but.
And I was just going to say, I mean, the document speaks for itself, and the board members can read it. So that sounds more like argument than a question. So
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. So there's no specific reason. Basically, the reason is that you had one last year, correct?
Yeah, they're very costly too, and nothing's really changed except I've continued my sobriety.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. Before I turn over to the board members, Dr. Ward, was there anything you wanted to add in rebuttal or?
No, I take full responsibility for every action that I've made, and I'm sincerely apologetic and remorseful for this.
Thank you, Dr. Warridge. I'm now going to turn to the board members to see if they have questions. I'll start from this side this time just to change it up a little bit. Ms. Rescate, do you have any questions? All right, then it's on to Dr. Kasuga.
I don't have questions right now, maybe later.
I will come at the end. I always do that in case there's supplemental questions. No problem. Okay, perfect. Ms. Nystrom?
Also, I do not have questions. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your time.
No. Dr. Harpshe?
I don't have any questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Phillips?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Now, finally?
No.
Oh, my God, this day goes on forever.
I like his questions, though. So.
Oh, my gosh. That's no reflection on you. I give them a dirty stare. That's the moment. So you were involved in AA?
Yes.
You were attending regularly?
Oh, up to 3 a week, yes.
And then?
They became very cliquey, and a lot of people had relationships in them, and there was a lot of drama that was going on. There was a lot of drama. I mean, if you can look, I even tried doing AA like in Australia at some point. Like I was trying to mix it up and do different ones. But the ones that I was consistent with, because I really like to have like a consistent group that I would go to in meetings, they became very cliquey drama. A lot of people were relapsing. A lot of the meetings that I would attend, some people would come on intoxicated, unfortunately. Now, don't get me wrong, though. I think AA is the most amazing program, and I have learned so much from AA, and I still refer back to the big book all the time. So I'm not harshing on the meetings at all, and it did definitely save me when I was first in my recovery. I just wanted something more holistic, so I really leaned over to the Refuge Recovery, which is more Buddhist-based.
Could you tell us a little bit about Refuge Recovery?
We're Buddhist. It's on a Buddhist philosophy. It's not necessarily Buddhism, but it focuses, like the first 20 minutes is meditation. It's more of a holistic view of treatment, but it definitely focuses on the suffering, that there is a path to end the suffering. They have a goal set based, and it definitely focuses a lot on forgiveness. So I find those a lot more healing as opposed to, not that I'm bagging on AA at all. I love AA, but I really find those more helpful.
You connect with it more.
Yeah.
And is it based on, it's not based on the 12 steps then?
No, it's not 12 steps.
And how often do you attend that program?
When I need them, I don't do it regularly, like once a week or anything like that. So if I feel like I need an uplifting moment, I'll do it like maybe on a Sunday morning, every other week or so. But I also meditate daily, so.
Mm-hmm. So meditation is part of your self-care?
Yes, definitely.
How long do you usually meditate for?
Oof, if I can get up to 20 minutes, that's a plus. But I also find prayer is a form of meditation for me. So I pray I pray 5 times a day, but I pray all day long. I'm a Muslim, so I pray all day long, and I find that is very meditative as well. My running, I do as much as possible. That's a form of meditation for me as well. It's a time for me to just release myself and let go. So that's my form of exercise.
Now, does Refuge Recovery, do they use a sponsor system or no?
No.
So it's just kind of come as you are, come when you want to?
Yes.
You do consider yourself an alcoholic?
Absolutely.
And you consider yourself to be in recovery?
Absolutely.
What does recovery mean to you?
Everything. It means that I have a chance at life, that it's the end to my suffering, and that it's going to be an ongoing battle. Recovery means knowing that I'm always at risk of falling down that path. As I said, I know that my body has an allergy, and I know that one sip, that myth that we can have one sip and be okay, is false. And I know that if I even think about going down that road, may as well just die, because my life will be over.
Do you ever have the desire to drink?
Really not. I cringe.
You never have a thought of it?
I do think about it. So, if I'm out with my friends or it's around me, which I do not have alcohol anywhere around me in my house or anything like that, like I wonder, but that immediately turns to an aversion. I think I've conditioned myself to knowing that even looking at it or smelling it, I automatically get nauseous. I don't know how that happens, but it immediately switches off. So the thought could be there, but the thought is more of
momentary?
What it would, the negative consequences that would happen immediately comes to mind.
I don't have further questions.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. All right, Dr. Tate, any questions?
Thank you for being here. No questions for me.
How about you, Dr. Rogers?
Thank you so much for being here. I do just have one question. I really appreciate how you have talked about the profound impact that being on probation has had on you and your life. And I'm just wondering, with all that you have learned during this process of probation, what are the lessons that you are taking with you, and how does that inform your practice with clients?
Ooh, good question. Okay, repeat that one more time.
I can get it all together again.
How did what I learned from probation affect my life?
Yeah, how has it impacted your life, and these lessons that you are learning and are taking from this process, how does that inform your work?
One thing I learned is when I first was on probation, there was a lot of anger and resentment because I was still into my addiction and I didn't think I had a problem. But one thing that I finally learned with my therapist, because we also had therapy at Roots to Recovery, was when
This is David, the moderator. We're working on fixing the audio. Bear with us, please.
Are we all set?
Yeah.
All right, let's go back on the record. All right, we're back on the record. We just had some audio interruption issues there, and I apologize to you, Dr. Warridge. You can pick up wherever you want.
Oh, I appreciated the structure, so I know that that really helps with people who are suffering from addiction. Immensely, it helped me, but most importantly, that there's hope and there is recovery, and that's what I'd like to provide to my clients too when they're suffering with this, because this was a blessing in disguise, absolutely, and it saved my life. So, thank you. I hope that answered the question.
It did.
Okay.
No other question.
Thank you very much. Mr. Fu, any question?
Thank you for your time. No further questions.
Thank you.
Perfect. And then Dr. Cervantes, any questions?
Thank you.
All right, let me turn back. I know, Dr. Kasuga, you mentioned you might have a question. Do you, any?
Still no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else had any questions? All right. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Tan, for being here. Thank you so much, Dr. Warridge. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you very much. At this time, the record is closed. Matter is submitted for decision. We can go off the record. Thank you.
Much.
Perfect. Thank you. At this time, the board will meet in closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 11126C3 to discuss disciplinary matters, including petitions for reinstatement, modification, or early termination, proposed decisions, stipulations, and petitions for reconsideration and remands. Also, during this closed session, the board will convene to receive advice from legal counsel on litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 11126E. We will return to open session after our closed session to continue with our agenda. So thank you very much. Good. Hello, it is 1:45 and my name is Leah Tate and we are restarting with the Board of Psychology meeting. Ms. Voon, can you please call the roll? Tate? Here.
Here. Kasuga? Here. Cervantes? Here. Fu?
Here.
Herbsheets?
Here. Here.
Here.
Here. Quorum is established.
Thank you so much. And we are going to take up agenda item number 11. This is the enforcement report. Ms. Monterrubio, please.
Thank you, Dr. Tate. As Dr. Tate mentioned, the enforcement report is agenda item 11. It's with a memo as well as the overview of enforcement activity.
Louder.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Herbsheets. There's been an update since this report was written, and as Mr. Burke mentioned earlier today, we now are fully staffed in enforcement, which is, thank you. We have had a vacancy for over a year in enforcement, and I believe that we found two really qualified candidates, one of which you met earlier today. So enforcement is so excited, and our new hires are excited to be part of the team. I would like to take a little bit of time to just thank the enforcement staff for absorbing extra workload while we have these two vacancies. They've done, in my opinion, an amazing job. They've been responsive to stakeholders, have tried to prioritize the workload and make sure that all complaints are being investigated. So I just wanted to thank all of them.
We applaud them too.
board now has 53 expert reviewers and conducted its expert training on September 20th of this year. The Office of the Attorney General, as well as the Division of Investigation, assisted in the training, and we have received positive feedback. We will hold a mid-year check-in to see how things are going with our experts and discuss any lingering issues they may have. Our expert reviewers are paid $150 to $200, depending upon the services rendered for case reviews, preparation of expert opinion reports, and testimony at administrative hearings. There is only one expert assigned to each case, and they are expected to perform an initial and final review and testify if needed. Since July 1st of 2024, the board has received 316 complaints. All complaints received are opened and assigned to
Okay, we are back on the record with the Board of Psychology, take two. We are discussing agenda item number 11, and this is the enforcement report with Ms. Monterrubio.
As I was stating, since July 1st of 2024, the board has referred 17 cases to the Office of the Attorney General for formal discipline. Enforcement staff is currently monitoring 32 active probationers and 15 told probationers. Of the 32 probationers, 2 are out of compliance. Being out of compliance can result in a citation and fine or further disciplinary action of the Attorney General. And again, attached is the overview of enforcement activity, and I'm available.
Thank you for your report. I just have a quick question. How many expert reviewers came to the September training?
19. There was a total of 32 applications received. 13 were denied, 19 were approved. And just to remind the board that we do have former board members reviewing the applications and making a determination as to whether or not they are eligible.
I have a question. Of the ones that were denied, what were the basic reasons for that?
Some were not licensed long enough. Some submitted a unredacted evaluation, even though the requirement is to provide a redacted evaluation. There were a variety of different reasons. Some may have had discipline, which doesn't qualify to be an expert. So a variety of different reasons, but we did rely heavily on our past board members to take a look at each and every document that was submitted. And again, they made the recommendation as to whether or not they met the eligibility.
Good. That's helpful to know.
And then upon attending the training, then they're able to get assigned cases. Is that correct?
Yes. Once you've attended the training and you've completed the training and you feel comfortable, we'll start assigning cases to those individuals. You're welcome.
Any other board comment for Ms. Monterrubio? Perfect. We're going to go to public comment for this agenda item in the room. If anyone has public comment, please come forward and have a seat. Thank you. Going to you, Mr. Moderator, for public comment for agenda item number 11.
All right, we are open for public comment on agenda item 11. If you'd like to make a comment on the enforcement report, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 to raise their hand. And for mobile device users, you have 3 different screens and only one of them has a hand button. So you may need to hit the ellipses button. That's the ... at the bottom and cycle through the 3 different pages in order to find your hand. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please, and thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Monterrubio. We are going to agenda item number 12. This is the licensing report, and this is being presented by Ms. Zhang.
All right, good afternoon, board members. So first of all, I will be presenting on the licensing report.
The latter, thanks.
And then I want to also share with the board members that we are excited to have our new licensing technician. Her name is Celine Moon. She has joined the licensing team on October 14th, 2024. We are excited to have her, and moving forward, we are still looking to hire a limited term half-time licensing analyst to assist with the licensing workload. All right, so moving along to the licensing report and attachment A, it is the licensing population report. The table provides a snapshot of the number of psychologists, psychological associates, and psychological testing technicians, and each status at the time the report was generated, which was on October 16, 2024. From the data on attachment A, there are 23,311 licensed psychologists, and that includes license status in current and active, military and active, and retired. Then we have 1,844 registered psychological associates and 66 registered psychological testing technicians that are overseen by the board. On attachment A is the application workload report. These statistics are a snapshot of data that were pulled on October 16, 2024 for approved and open application from April through September 2024. On the psychologist application workload report, the data appears to fluctuate throughout the last few months. For the complete retake transaction, there is a higher number of approved application in April and July, and that is because candidates are allowed to take the complete once per quarter. So typically you will see that if a retake is needed, the retake application will be approved on the first of the following quarter. Moving along to the psychological associate application workload report, we have an increased trend of initial application with the highest of 130 initial application approved in August, and then the number jumped back down to 59 in September. On the psychological testing technician, the number of approved initial application increased in May and July, but then the number appears to jump back down months. And then moving along to attachment C, it is the application and notification report. It provides the number of application and notification received in the last 12-month period from October 2023 to September 2024. In comparison to those same 12-month period in 2022 and 2023 fiscal year, there is a decrease of 101 psychologist application and 24 psychological associate application, and an increase of 53 psychological associate notifications. Then moving on to attachment D, it provides an overview of average application processing timeframe from May 2024 to October 2024. And just a reminder, these processing timeframes are available and updated on the board website approximately every 2 weeks. The monthly average application processing timeframes provided on attachment D are based on the first set of data collected for that month. According to attachment D, the psychologist processing timeframe seems to be static for the most part. For the psychological associate, it has increased in October, and that could possibly be due to the increase of psychological associate application we received in the last couple months. For the psychological testing technician timeframe, the data for the application fluctuate largely, but the notification to add or change supervisor and supporting documents or correspondent has been steady, and it's been pretty manageable in the last few months. So with that, it concludes the licensing report, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you for your report. Is there any board comment for Ms. Young? I would like to open this item up for public comment in the room, please. If you do have public comment, please come forward and have a seat. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up WebEx for agenda item number 12?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 12. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, and thank you very much, Ms. Zhang. Moving on to agenda item number 13. This is the examination report, and this will be provided by Susan Hanson.
So the examination report, the ECCC pass rates are averaging 38.44% in 2024 so far, with an overall first-time pass rate of 61%. First-time pass rates tend to be higher than the overall pass rates. Pass rates for 2024 pretty consistent with previous years. The complete pass rates are averaging 80.83% in 2024, with the overall first-time pass rate of 80.48%. And the complete pass rates, again, for 2024 are consistent with previous years. That's the conclusion. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Any board comment? Oh, Mr. Fu?
Just more of a non-substantive question, which is for future reports, could we just make the graph for the ECCC statistics a little bit bigger? They're squished and it's hard to differentiate the lines in a meaningful way. So just appreciate that just a little bit bigger. So we can, but no further questions other than that.
Good. Any other board comments? I'm opening up this item for public comment in the room. If you do have a public comment, please come forward and have a seat. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up WebEx comment for agenda item number 13, please?
We are open for public comment on agenda item 13. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise your hand. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you may need to hit the ellipses button, that's the ... and cycle through the 3 different pages in order to find your hand. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Hold on a moment, though. Susan, hold on. Go ahead, Dr. Harpsheet.
I just wanted to, if you could please remind me, these statistics are for nationwide in Canada or just California?
It's out of state as well.
Oh, okay. Do you know how we compare, California compares?
We don't have, well, excuse me, for the complete, we don't have very many out of state.
Well, complete is California, but I meant of the ECCC.
Yeah, we don't have too many out of state.
I just meant California applicants taking the exam. How did they do compared to the national?
I would need to look.
Okay. Yeah, it would be interesting maybe at the next board meeting to know how we compare at this point in time. Thank you.
Can I ask a clarifying question to Dr. Harpsheet? Dr. Harpsheet, your question about the statistics, I understood your question as asking if these are the passage rates for all applicants across the country, or these are the pass rates for applicants in California applying for licensure?
Yes, it's for the ECCC. So this chart for the ECCC exam statistics, are these numbers representing all the exam takers since it's the U.S. and Canada, or are they just California ECCC?
Oh, excuse me, they're just California.
Yeah. So these are just California.
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering. Yeah. Okay, so then the question would be, how does it compare to the national? You know, I'm sure ASPPB would have that published, right? Yeah, that's okay.
I think the costing of report on passage rates for ECCC did last year, that was more historical data than this.
Right, and it was looking at school, you know, and age groups, and yeah, that was that presentation.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. I'm just trying to keep an eye on what's going on with California test takers versus nationwide test takers. Yeah.
Because if you're looking at just passage rates for some months, you're at what looks like 50%-ish in January of 21, and you're now in the 28%, 29% range for January.
Yeah, and this is, yeah.
Just what's changing?
I mean, we saw stuff during COVID, you know, we saw some changes. But yeah, I just like to keep an eye on what's going on, California, our state versus nationally.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Agenda item number 14, continuing professional development and renewals report. Mr. Polk.
Good afternoon. Included in the meeting materials for item 14, the CPD update, are the reports for continuing professional development and renewals. Attachment A shows the percentage of renewals that were submitted online versus mailed in. This last September, 95% of the renewals were submitted online with 5% mailed in. These percentages are similar to the previous months for online versus mailed in. And those previous months, the percentages are also included in attachment A. Attachment B shows the percentages of the types of renewals processed. Between January of 2024 through September of 2024, 75% of psychologists renewed as active, and the retirements count for approximately 4% of the monthly applications processed. Psychological associates count for 21% of the monthly renewal applications. In attachment C is the breakdown of the continuing education audits from June of 2023 to January of 2024. The pass rate stands at 89% with 5% of audits pending completion. Audits were put on hold due to the CPD coordinator vacancy. However, that position was filled in May. However, the coordinator position became vacant again and was filled again in September of 2024. With the position now being filled, projecting to continue with audits in early of 2025. We're projecting somewhere in January of 2025. So this item is informational, and that includes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Polk. Any board questions, comments? Glad you're in the new position. Oh, go ahead.
Didn't we previously have a chart of reasons why people were deficient in past reports? What was it?
Talked about it, but I don't remember. Not regularly, I don't think.
Yeah. No?
I don't think I've seen that.
I think historically there was something that appeared in the report, just to the number one reasons is why people.
Something we can definitely add to the future meeting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments?
Well, I think when it says percent deficient, that wasn't necessarily deficient in hours, is it? Or is it like, you know how you don't, when you have the column of not yet received? Is this telling us that 22% of the ones who did not pass were deficient in hours? Maybe didn't have the paperwork or?
Yeah, so it could be the numerous things. So it could be either deficient in hours or if we submit the audit notification and we haven't received the paperwork back.
Oh, so they're included in not yet received paperwork. Okay. Okay.
Any other comments for Mr. Polk? I'm opening this item up for public comment. If anyone has a public comment, please come forward and have a seat. Mr. Moderator, can you please open up WebEx for public comment for agenda item number 14.
We are on agenda item 14. If you'd like to make a public comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users, dial *3 to raise your hand. Like we have a request from Yanira Serven. I hope I said that correctly. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, you'll be given 2 minutes to speak, and I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm sorry. I'm not sure if this is appropriate for this portion, but I hear from our staff that there's still confusion about the new continuing education requirements. I'm wondering if the board is hearing the same thing, if there's any additional attempts to provide additional clarifications or information.
Yeah, we are receiving some. So there is still a little bit of confusion in that aspect of it, and there's still a confusion as far as the different category activities. So with me in this position, I'm hoping to hold a informational webinar like we have in the past. So it will probably be that first quarter of next year. We're hoping to hold that. So licensees will be welcome to come in, and we'll go over the full CPD model, different activities and categories, and hopefully that will alleviate some of the confusion as well. And as emails come into our email box, I am working with a little bit of a backlog since there was a vacancy in this position. So I'm going through and getting the backlog caught up as far as general inquiries, CPD questions, voicemails. So if they have any questions, yes, definitely email the continuing education box, and I will hopefully get to their emails quicker than sooner than later.
And Mr. Polk, if I'm not mistaken, the webinars we've held in the past are on the website.
That's correct.
We do have an FAQ section on the website.
Yes. Easiest way to get the website, on the right-hand side, there will be a link for continuing professional development. If you click on that, that will give you the links to the webinar, to the FAQs, to a breakdown of the CPD model. Even the full regulations are listed on there as well.
Mr. Moderator?
All right. Let's see here. We have the same person. She still has 1:26 left on her time, and her hand is back up. So let's get her back in.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say thank you, and I realized I was muted. So thank you. Thank you for the response, and I will direct my staff to the web site, and hopefully the additional information will help. Some of what they had brought up, if you're curious about specifics, is some of the details with attending conferences and the credits that they could claim for conferences. There was some confusion about that. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment.
And that is our only request for this comment period.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Polk, with regard to the sources of confusion with the requirements, recognizing that you don't necessarily have it off the top of your head, I would be curious, what are some of the common areas of confusion for people when they reach out to you? And then the second observation, having had a version of some memory, I sense that the passage rate for CPD has gone up over the last several years. It's been a while since I've seen 100% success rate when it comes to CPD. And I would be curious if we're able to, at some point, understand if the changes in CPD have also resulted in a higher passage rate because there are more opportunities to meet the requirements. So that would be just follow-up questions for perhaps next time. But those are two areas of interest for me. Thank you.
We're going to be ending our first full year of just CPD this year, so probably early next year. But then we should only look at the ones that audits that have been sent out and all the information's been received, right? Yeah.
I haven't seen 100% passage rate.
Right, but I think the way this chart is, we don't really get to see that fully. I think, but I was going to answer also, one of the questions that seems to keep coming up is, I'm going to this conference, and would this conference be acceptable for this category or that category? And sometimes it isn't acceptable because it's not sponsored continuing education, so it has to be in self-directed learning. And I think that's where sometimes, would you say that to Mr. Polk? Yeah, that kind of, and so they'll write to him and ask, is this conference? And then you want to clarify, well, if it's a full day, it has to be sequential courses, and you can get 1 credit for that, and then the credits for the courses.
And is it obvious if a conference is sponsored, but like, do they have to do a lot of research to identify sponsorship, or is it fairly clear that?
It's clear on the conference materials.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we do have like all that information, like a fact sheet and on our website.
Any other comments? Okay, Mr. Polk, you're off the hook. Moving on to agenda item number 15, the Outreach and Communications Committee report and consideration of and possible action on committee recommendations. Chairperson Rogers.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. If you turn to page 79 in the combined packet, you will see item agenda 15A. This is the strategic plan update, which will work.
Strategic plan updates and informational updates on our strategic plan action items. All of the items that are listed as ongoing are ongoing. It's a relatively new action plan, so a lot of the big ticket action items are still somewhere in the future. So that's the only update I have at this time.
Thank you. Board comments? Do we have any public comment on item 15A in the room? Okay, let's open it up for public comment via WebEx. Mr. Moderator.
All right, we are open for public comment on 15A. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. Okay, let's move to item 15B, the social media update. That's in the combined packet on pages 101, 102. I'll turn it over to Ms. Whitney.
Thank you. So for the social media update, due to the changes with Facebook and Twitter analytics over the last 2 years, board staff is no longer able to track likes and followers over time. For Facebook, we can only provide the current number of followers and see the most popular post in the last 90 days. Twitter analytics have also changed, where we can no longer see followers over time, only current followers. With the changes in the analytics, the board requested in November of last year to remove the data from this report. And then at the September 2023 outreach meeting, it was requested that the board look into creating a LinkedIn account. And I'm happy to announce that we do now have a live LinkedIn account. We worked on an implementation plan where we sent listserv notices and posts on Twitter or X and Facebook to notify those following those accounts as well. And then we also have 2 videos on YouTube from earlier this year. We have the CPD webinar from January and the fees informational webinar in March. And then in the rest of the memo kind of shows the views on each YouTube video, our prior meetings, and then we also have the 2023 as a comparison. So this is an informational only item, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney. I have one question. Do you have any information on the engagement on the LinkedIn page so far? I know it's relatively new. I'm one of the followers. I'm very excited about that.
I don't. We can find out for sure, and then give you guys an update.
Okay. That'd be great. Any other board comment or questions?
Cervantes.
Good afternoon. I'm happy to hear about the LinkedIn engagement, and I wonder and I hope that there's an evaluation of social media channels take a lot of staff time to manage and to create content for, and maybe an evaluation of what mix we should have instead of the instinct to add. If our audience is not on X, for example, or on Facebook, I presume there's the opportunity for more engagement on LinkedIn for you. That there's just some evaluation. I just think I appreciate the effort, but if we're not reaching folks, maybe we need to reevaluate.
We can take a look at that.
Any other board comments?
I was just wondering if it's on the website itself, like letting them know that they can go to the page and visit, like looking for meetings, locations, that sidebar. Maybe put follow us on LinkedIn or something.
We can look into that because we do have our Facebook and Twitter icons down on a connect with us on the page, so we can add LinkedIn to that front page.
Okay. Do we have any public comment in the room? Seeing none, let's move to public comment via WebEx. Mr. Moderator.
We are open for public comment once again. This time 15B, if I'm not mistaken. Please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users, dial *3 to raise your hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. We'll move to item 15C, which can be found in the combined packet on page 103. And Ms. Whitney, you're back up again.
Okay, so the information provided in your materials are for the date range of January 1, 2024 through August 31st of 2024. The first chart shows the top 5 most viewed pages of our webpage, not including our homepage. At the request of the committee, last year we included the 2023 statistics for comparison. Only the psychological testing technician page does not have the 2023 only the psychological associate page does not have the 2023 statistics because that was not in one of our top 5 last year. The bulleted items are represented by corresponding graphs for views by quarter, with the exception of the summer 2024 newsletter. That one is broken down by July. And for all of these, there's a side-by-side comparison to reflect the 24 and the 23 views. The legislative and regulatory advisories are also listed by the same dates, January 1, 2024 through August 31st, 2024, along with a 2023 side-by-side comparison. That includes this item, which is informational only, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Whitney. Do we have any board comment or questions for item 15C? Okay, seeing none, we'll open it up to public comment in the room. Seeing none here, we'll move it to public comment via WebEx.
We are open for public
item
comment.
15C.
We are open for public comment on 15C, web statistics. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial in users, dial *3. And as a reminder to our mobile device users, you can hit the ellipses button. That's the ... if you're having trouble finding your hand. We're going to take just a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. request for public comment. Do you wish to continue with the agenda? I'm tripping over my tongue today.
Yes, please. Thank you. Just to add real quick, it's looking like we have 13 LinkedIn candidates.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Whitney. We'll move to item 15D, which can be found on page 110 of the combined packet, and we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Burke.
The full journal was already distributed, printed and distributed to our mail list, and a link was emailed out to the various listservs. The winter newsletter is being prepared now and should be sent out in December. And I'd like to thank everyone who submitted articles and information for inclusion in that email for the winter journal. Informational update only with no action requested. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Burke. Any board comment? Do you have any public comment in the room? Let's move to public comment via WebEx for 15D, please.
We are once again open for public comment on 15D this time. Please raise your hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand, and we will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds now to see if we have a request for public comment. Seeing no request for public comment, do you wish to continue with the agenda?
Yes, please. And we'll move to agenda item 15E, which is outreach activities, which can be found on page 127 of the Turn it back over to you, Mr. Burke.
The outreach activities update. In the materials, you'll see it's listed all of the various outreach activities that the board and board members and staff conducted in the 2023-2024 fiscal year. I don't have any new updates to report for 2024-2025, the current fiscal year, although we will be adding and we'll be preparing for the legislative visits in February, prior to the February board meeting. This item is informational and there's no action requested.
Mr. Burke, to the meeting we have with the research related to the research psychoanalysts, does that constitute stakeholder meeting?
Yes, it would. So we did actually do one.
You were there.
Thank you. I was there.
Everyone was there.
Seems like a long time ago. So look at that. We did do one.
Thank you.
When was that meeting?
September
20th?
September the 20th.
Okay. Very good. Good job.
Thank you.
Any other board comment or questions? Yes, Dr. Kasuga.
So, Mr. Burke, I understand that with the California Psychological Association annual conference, that we have an outstanding invitation, and I'm hoping we can see if we have the capacity to participate or have a booth on the upcoming one in 2025.
Thank you.
Any other board comments?
Where was the meeting on the March 21st?
Yeah, it doesn't list it. It
was here. It was at DCA.
Oh, DCA, because it doesn't say what it was.
The March 21st meeting?
Yeah.
That was the fee increase meeting, and that was virtual.
Oh.
It's not listed on here. It just has the people who participated. Okay, we'll move to public comment in the room and move to public comment via WebEx. Mr. Moderator.
We are open for public comment on 15E as an echo. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users will need to dial *3 to raise their hand, and we will call on people in the order we have request. We're going to take our first request comes from Dr. Elizabeth Winkleman. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Winkleman with the California Psychological Association. And I just wanted to follow up on the comment about having a booth and attending at the California Psychological Association to say yes, to confirm, yes, we would really welcome having any board representatives or staff or board members to attend. It was very helpful when you were able to attend, not this past year, but the year before, and it's going to be in Long Beach. So I can send details if that would be helpful, but just wanted to reiterate the welcome and the value of having board members and board staff available to talk to psychologists who attend our convention, and thank you for considering it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Charles Wasserman. However, you do not have a microphone or a headset connected to your computer or mobile device. Whatever you're using, I cannot see it. So you're going to need to fix that before we can send you a request to unmute a microphone. Please feel free to type something into the Q&A box in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. On many computers, it appears to be a white box with a question mark in it, and you can join the question and answer chat down there. I will try and help you out. You are also welcome to email the board. I'm going to put up a display for how you can fix your audio connection real quickly, but if we can't do it in a matter of moments, we're going to have to continue. All right. Hopefully at the top you can access your audio and video. You're going to have to use the drop down to select Switch Audio in order to enable a microphone. All right, Charles, we're going to go ahead and move on. Hopefully you can get your audio resolved. Feel free to call into the meeting as well. We have instructions on the agenda how to do that. Madam President, would you prefer to move on, or shall we try and work with Charles further?
We can move on, and if Charles is able to call in, we'll take a comment.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's move to the final item in agenda item number 15. This is 15F, reviewing barriers to telehealth survey and next steps. This can be found in the combined packet on page 128 and 129, and there is also an item in the hand carry folder. I will turn it over to Mr. Burke.
Very much, Dr. Rogers. So the board conducted a barriers to telehealth survey sent out to providers in June of 2023. We received those back.
At the November 2023 meeting, the board reviewed the results of the survey and assigned the following task to the committee to engage in partnerships with stakeholders, various stakeholders, to do outreach to these various communities. This was considered again at the September 27th at the committee meeting. And at that meeting, Dr. Kasuga requested the board write a letter to potential stakeholders to determine if they would be interested in partnering with the board to share standards in telehealth to improve them. Dr. Kasuga also requested the board consolidate and highlight the major themes from the survey in a dashboard format, which would include some of the data. And that draft document is a hand carry item. It's page 1 of the hand carry item. That's something we were looking at how to distill because there's a lot of information in the survey, how to make that presentable in a clear way through graphics. So what we've come up with is a narrative with some of the key data points pulled out. And then what we were thinking was that this could be sent out with the letter, with the emails that we send to these groups. And then within that, the narrative, the various salient percentage points, we could hyperlink to the relevant parts of the surveys. I'm not sure if that's what you had in mind. I apologize if it's not. If it's not, we can absolutely take it back and work on it some more. So that's the report. Yes.
When your committee's thoughts were to write to consumers and ask if they were interested in engaging with the board?
Not consumers. I'm sorry. It was various organizations and stakeholders like APA, ABSI.
So how would that be doing something different than we already have in terms of telehealth standards put out by like the APA guidelines on telehealth? Would it be like just doing something different, or would we be reinventing the wheel or trying to?
I don't think the intention is to reinvent the wheel. It's to work with them to help to overcome some of the barriers that were identified in the survey.
Okay, so it's not talking about standards or guidelines. It's how do we work together to eliminate some of these barriers?
Yes, I think that's the best way of putting it.
Thanks.
I appreciate this analysis and the creation of the dashboard, but these data points, and maybe it's the next layer I can't see yet, these data points to me don't address what I thought was the initial intent to address gaps. Like, for example, if I read a statement that says 95% of consumers reported feeling comfortable receiving psychological services via telehealth, and I'm trying to engage a partner to work with me to address this, I can't tell if the sample was representative of California, either by zip code or some other demographic. Is it mostly women that answered? Is it mostly men? Like, I need something, some other demographic analysis to engage the partner. Well, one, to understand the issue for policy purposes for us, but also to engage the partner so that they know what we need them to, what we need their partnership with. Age, I don't know, there's different demographic markers. When we initiated this project, I did ask that some of these be included in the survey. I imagine some were. I didn't say which ones should be because I don't know which ones were appropriate. But the part of the analysis that's missing for me is that demographic point so that I know where the gap is, if that makes sense.
Wouldn't you then have to have a coordination between the data as to demographics and the people that told us they had barriers? So in other words, you'd have the demographic data over here, barriers over here, but we don't know who from the demographic data is experiencing the barriers. So it'd almost have to be
A crosstab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know that.
But if the data's in the bank, maybe someone can just crosstab it for us.
Look into cross-tabbing it, absolutely, because there is race gender information in the.
Absolutely.
There was. With regard to specific questions that were asked, the DCA has fairly strong guidelines and requirements for what we can and cannot ask and how it needs to be presented. They try and make it uniform, so we followed that. So yeah, I think we could certainly do a deeper analysis of doing a crosstab, you said, linking who said they had barriers with certain, to see if certain demographic groups indicated they had more than others within the survey.
That helps the partner. Otherwise, how would the partner know where to engage with us?
How would you know what to ask the partner that you want
How
to
would
do?
we know which partners are appropriate?
Yeah.
Partners are appropriate to begin with.
But does DCA allow us to do that?
But they wouldn't allow us to do that. It's just an analysis of data points we've already received from a survey we already sent out. So I think that should be okay.
Yeah, zip code, I don't know what might be appropriate, but it just seems like some other crosstab is necessary.
Sure. I don't think we have a zip code. We have county.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
because then conceivably there could be a partner in a county, right? That could be some, you know.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Particularly more far-flung parts of California.
That was it, sorry.
No, that's really
That was long.
And I think this is a really great start, and that's why we wanted to bring it back to the full board to get more input, so we could figure out what to do next. I know that this survey has been around for a very long time, and we've been talking about it and exploring it, so we're trying to figure out now how to make good use of the data and engage our stakeholders in how to, share more information around telehealth and those barriers.
And there was so much information.
There was a lot of information.
So kudos to you for trying to
distill it down.
Yes, because there was a lot in there.
Yes.
So, I really appreciate what has been started, but so part of it is what Dr. Rogers and Dr. Tate were saying. There was a lot of information, and we wanted to make it so the information is more digestible. And I suggested a dashboard, but I was thinking more of like a visual dashboard, so that information can be even more kind of like easier to, and we can be more creative about it. But I can provide an example.
Be very helpful.
Yeah. So so it's going to be like more visual in terms of this information can be turned into a more visual graph and chart. I have a very small sample one in my phone of what kind of like I had in my mind as a visual dashboard. So this information will just going to be in a kind of like visual type of, it's so small, it feels so bad, but it's more kind of like a visual chart.
Bless you.
Can I clarify something? Well, Dr. Kasuga, when a dashboard to me implies or suggests that there's data constantly coming in and it's being updated frequently. So like when I drive my car, I'm at my speedometer and it's constantly adjusting based on the speed I'm driving. So are you asking for a dashboard that is, are you asking for data to be constantly fed in and updated, or are you asking for an infographic?
An infographic. Maybe you can help me, Mr. Scott.
Yeah.
Because
basically just the visuals that are on a dashboard, so it's not a dashboard, but having these visuals for the report.
An infographic.
Yeah, infographic.
Right. Because dashboard pulls live data and you're constantly updating and refreshing that data. And so this is a one-time survey, so I'm not.
No.
Okay.
And I didn't want to confuse people, but I'm not in the communication field. But I think infographic would be a better probably description of what I am trying to depict during the meeting, which was what we think will be best to make the information more digestible. And we were in need of Mr. Scott's expertise in communication. So what we can do is we can provide you an example of the infographic information. So it's kind of like look at the dashboard, you can see all the information for driving statically. So if your car is probably parked or it's a snapshot of the car. So it's not going to be an updated one, but you can clearly get a lot of information visually by just one spot, one page. So that's kind of what we were thinking about.
Okay. And I think a visual would help know if we even have enough information for certain areas of populations, because it says diversity of providers was cited 20% of the time for lack of access. However, language was cited only 9% of the time, and then it makes it seem like if language barrier was a minor barrier, but then we don't know if most of the people that did answer the survey was mostly English speakers. Maybe 21% of the time, diversity of providers wasn't a big deal because most of the people were white responding, and so I think having more breakdown across, yeah.
Okay.
I think that crosstabs, because I think there's a need for several, would help with that. What? AMC, hold on. It's coming. I see Dr. Rogers looking at me. I'm curious.
Give you space to complete your thought.
I think it's been a long day. It's starting to catch up to me. Let me get my thoughts in order. I wonder if our colleagues at UCSF, if there's any on the WebEx, who do this kind of research might be interested in analyzing that data set. There's they do workforce research, from what I understand, in the field of psychology.
They were asked. The University of California and the Little Hoover Commission was already asked if they wanted to dive into this already.
Okay. Did they say yes?
No.
There's good. I imagine there's good stuff in that data set.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that Mr. Scate and Dr. Kasuga will work with board staff.
I already sent Mr. Burke, sorry, I'm sorry, an example of a dashboard of kind of research that kind of we can get ideas from in terms of depicting some of the information that we have. I think it's going to be helpful. There can be maps that have certain areas so you can see responses where they're coming from in a California map. That's really helpful. And also it makes you want to, look at the data further and engage with the data if you can look at it and digest it easily with the visuals that come with the information.
So we'll have the infographic, we will cross-tab the information and combine that with the narrative language that we already have here. And based on that, then we'll send it out to stakeholders to see if anyone is interested in partnering with us to disseminate and share the information related to telehealth.
Does the board have a statistician?
No.
No.
No. So we'll...
It sounds very complicated. You may have to enlist some outside help.
Yeah, I will certainly, the people that helped us build the survey through Solid, I'll certainly be reaching out to them to see if we can utilize them to put something together. I don't think just looking, we might not have the expertise in-house to do some of the things, but that's not a problem. DCA almost certainly does. We just need to find the right people to ask and see what their availability is.
Go ahead, Mr. Burke.
Mr. Burke, to help narrow the haystack as you seek the needle,
Tableau might be a query that you ask Solid if they have that software. Tableau. Okay. So you just upload. You typically can upload a data set in Excel, and then you can cross tab the way you want it to. And a lot of different government agencies do use Tableau. Okay. And so I would be curious. That might be one place to start in terms of narrowing the research you might have to do to embark on this effort.
Good stuff. Thank you very much.
They specialize in the display.
Yeah.
So that might help develop that next level of graphic.
Yeah, almost certainly would. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board comments? Thank you for the discussion. Any public comment in the room? And we'll move to public comment via WebEx.
We are open for public comment on 15F as in Foxtrot. This is telehealth barriers. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise a hand by tapping that hand button at the bottom of the screen. Dial-in users dial *3 to raise a hand. We will call on people in the order we have requests. We're going to take a few seconds to see if we have a request for public comment. And we're going to hear from Dr. Elizabeth Winkleman. Hold on just a moment. We're sending you a request to unmute your microphone.
Hi, it's Elizabeth Winkleman again. I put a link in the chat. I think some of the issues that the board is trying to get at, that the federal government, of course, it's not specific to psychology or to California, but already has a lot of good information about barriers to access to telehealth. So I just wanted to make sure that the board members saw that, because if I'm understanding correctly, it's both that you want to share the data that was received from the survey, but also identify or help with removing or reducing the barriers to access. So I just wanted to share that information in case it's helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Winkleman.
And that is our only request for public comment on this topic.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. And that is the conclusion of agenda item 15.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
We're going to take a quick break until 3:15, and we'll see everyone back. Thank you.